Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second episode of our new podcast. I am your host, NoTea, and with me, as always, is my wonderful co-host, Star. Welcome to Critics, Writers, and Weebs.
Hello.
So, what are we talking about today?
Today we have, as previously mentioned, the Mob Psycho 100 review. We go
Yes.
in full detail of one of our favorite shows, and we'll get to see what each of our opinions are on that, as well as our mystery topic, which we now have to, display. It's the Crunchyroll Anime Awards for 2024. What our picks would have been, not what those filthy judges would have picked. I think they're all really respectable, but what would we have chosen instead?
All right. So, we've got a lot to talk about. I have.
Well, let's jump right into it. Let's start with Mob.
All right. So, just so you know, I just wrote down basic notes on my thoughts for the series. I didn't even finish writing all of it down, and I have almost 6 pages worth of notes on it.
I had 2 pages alone for one episode.
I was just doing like
So
bulletin basic points, and I still had that much. Were you doing like full essay paragraphs or like?
I did it for we'll get to that definitely. We'll talk about that episode in particular. But
Yeah.
when I say that like I was able to write 2 pages like essay format on one episode of Mob Psycho. Probably could write forever on it, honestly. It's so good.
Yeah, I
And
definitely
that's
have
just
like a couple essay topics I can make on Mob Psycho.
exactly. And that's just the beauty of this series. So why don't we start with like a little bit of maybe facts about the series? So anything that is important there that you want to mention?
Facts. Basically just the basic concept. We're mainly going to be talking about the anime today, which was adapted at Studio Bones, ran from 2016 till 20. Did it end at 23?
Yep, yep. It's
No,
qualified for the awards.
I thought it ended in 22 because
So it ended in 22, but it's in like that
right,
winter
it's
cycle.
right. So
Yeah,
so
so
ran from 2016 till 2022, animated at I already said Studio Bones, and is based on the original manga by One, the same manga for the webcomic of One Punch Man. So,
yeah. To further it with Studio Bones, the specific studio you might know from works like My Hero Academia, um, Soul Eater for those from a little bit of a previous audience, and I believe they did Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
they did both the original and the Brotherhood.
And okay, so we're talking about an animation studio that knows how to adapt series well, and if they need to make changes, they will.
Yeah. And despite all the well done stuff they've done, they have never done anything else like Mob Psycho. And like, thing. It really
Yeah,
shows
so
throughout the entire production.
absolutely, it does. They put maybe that's a good way to start. So we'll start with just the animation studio, Studio Bones. How well of an adaptation is this? What does the animation look like? I mean,
It's
you want to start?
1 second. So anyone who's familiar with One's art style knows it's kind of ugly, like, and not in like a bad way. Like this person doesn't know what they're doing. This is them trying with their abilities, trying to communicate something, and with the tone and atmosphere set up in Mob Psycho, it very much works. Now, with the One Punch Man anime, they took more the art style that Yusuke Murata did when he made his manga adaptation of it, versus this one, which does go straight more for the source material of One. So it looks very weird on like just the first viewing or looking at the poster or something.
Yeah, it doesn't like hard sell you as like Oshinoko or something like that where it's like this looks beautiful. The character designs can often look a little like unsettling because it's like that's not what I'm used to when I watch anime. But
Yeah,
it's certainly done with great purpose for Mob Psycho.
it's a bit unsettling, but at the same time, as soon as you get used to it, it is very comforting and warm
Yeah,
because it the artists very much know kind of how to design the face to make it both unassuming while sometimes a bit unnerving because of how unassuming it is, with Mob kind of being the best example of that.
Yeah, a lot of mobs' reactions and stuff, especially in the anime, you can really see like all the different frames that they work through, and it kind of shows sometimes you're like, that's not the best looking face, but then it's like, oh, but it's Mob, it's Shio, so it works with the series. So, by no means is it a negative to say when you know the series, it's not a negative, but I can see how initially that can be a little jarring.
Yeah. So,
And with Studio Bones, they in particular are. I didn't actually look up the technical term for this. I probably should have, but they really like doing what I call a kaleidoscope effect, where you have like different things that are rotating in the same kind of
mm,
uh like
like the
screen.
basically most commonly used when Mob is using his powers, you kind of just see
Exactly.
again that kaleidoscope effect. That I'm going to guess that was done digitally, but it was very well integrated with the rest of the hand drawn art style.
And yeah, and they have been practicing this since as early as I can remember. Like I remember them trying it in Soul Eater, I remember them trying it in previous works. So you can kind of that's but nothing to the scale of Mob Psycho
Yeah, it's
by
like
any means.
yeah, it's like they do a lot of different kinds of art styles within it. Like I know there are like a couple moments where they're doing like glass paintings for like some of it. Some of them are like very like deep charcoal lines. Some of them are basically just sketches, which is very interesting, a bit risky, but it does very much work out for what the series is trying to do.
Absolutely. And it kind of blends itself into the series. So because it almost fits too
Yeah.
well. It's like this is the exact animation studio I wanted to make Mob Psycho if I got to choose.
Mm. Well,
Because every time someone uses their powers, the animation is just stellar.
it's honestly even when they're not using their powers, it's always pretty stellar
Oh
because
yeah,
there's
absolutely, absolutely.
always like
But
an appropriate sense of movement to everything, even if everything is pretty still.
yeah, timing looks great. Every choice frame they use for majors, it's great. I think what I'm trying to say is when they get to have fun, right? When they get to really play around, like the Megami fight, like when Reagan gets Mon's power, like it's just
Yeah, you could tell those moments
absolutely
what
fun to watch.
you could tell those moments that they were really looking forward to.
Exactly. I'm assuming that some of the animators read the
Yeah,
source material and were like, "Oh, we're gonna play around with
yeah.
this."
So going on from animation, do you want to kind of go through the show season by season to kind of talk about the
Sure.
story and the
Yeah,
characters?
absolutely.
It is very interesting to go back to season one after going through everything else because you'd expect season one to, in compared to everything else, you'd expect it to be not be as good. But then you rewatch and it's like, oh, this would honestly make my all time favorite list just on this season alone.
Yeah, I really think about it, and like season one, is pretty consistent at what I like to call like expectation subversion in a good way. You always sit there and you say, I don't know if this is gonna catch. I don't know if I'm gonna like this character. Oh, I see what they're doing. No, you don't, and they always catch. Everything the
Yeah.
series does works somehow.
It gives you what you want, but not the way you thought you wanted it. Like,
So a few of the characters in the cast. Maybe we should talk about the main characters that are introduced
mhm.
season one. So you have the protagonist, Shigeo Kageyama, aka Mob. Um, and well, he works with a self-proclaimed exorcist and kind of a con man at this point, Reagan Arataka. And right away, you can kind of see the duo. So like, Reagan acts as Mob's teacher, and he's kind of acting as Mob's teacher because Shigeo Mob actually has psychic powers. He's somewhat of an Esper, and so he's notably strong, if not the strongest Esper we've ever seen. And so he kind of is used by Reagan, or at least that's what we originally would
Yeah.
think.
Well, it's like,
And almost right away, you were like, "Oh yeah, I think I know where this is going. He's gonna figure it out, right?"
you watch episode one, you get a good idea of like sort of their dynamic and kind of what they're doing, and you kind of expect the entire series to just be that, or you expect to be getting a lot of that. But surprisingly, the series doesn't indulge in that story all too often. And whenever it does, it's always somewhat cleverly well subverted and always really well done to where it's always enjoyable to watch. Not, oh, it's this stick again.
Yeah, it could, and this is why I'm saying it's expectation subversion because you're so used to the cliche of like the teacher actually doesn't know what he's doing. Like, I mean, this is done as early as like the Music Man, where it's like, oh, the teacher actually doesn't know what they're doing. But in this case, it's emphasized early on. The advice that Reagan gives as a teacher to Mob is genuinely helpful. Is
Yeah.
is the most helpful thing in Mob's life. And that continues for the entire story.
Yeah, it's like honestly the entire first like 3 episodes or so, despite being somewhat disconnected from each other, are just the perfect opening for this entire series. Like you get the kind of strange uncanny look down immediately. You get both their initial seeming dynamic and also kind of the subversions of their dynamic down pretty quickly. Because, like you said, you introduce and you think, oh, it's just a common man using this person, but then you quickly see, oh no, there is some good parts to their relationship.
Yeah.
You get
Yeah, absolutely.
it does a good job of establishing the tone really quickly. It's like you kind of get a general idea of everything really quickly, and it also works to show that there is more going on aside from what we see.
Yeah, I'll get more into the characters at like when we talk about it a little bit later.
Yeah,
But uh continuing with the story, um we are introduced to our I would like to say our third main character, which makes up the kind of the trio of the three main characters, which is he starts out as a villain, Dimple, Hekubo-chan.
weep.
In any other series, and I'm being serious, in any other series, any other writer, even some of the greatest writers of all time, Dimple is a terrible character. Handled by Mob Psycho, handled by one's writing, Dimple is one of the greatest anime characters ever.
Yeah,
Just hands down, maybe top 10 all time.
it's like Dimple's a character that, for me, he really sneaked up on me on how much I would kind of like him because throughout most of season one, he doesn't really change all that much. He's still the same character. He just he worked himself into the dynamic of everyone else so well that you kind of like seeing him around.
Now, I don't want to like this isn't a trash on the series by any means, but really besides maybe Teru, what characters go through too much growth in season one?
Well,
I There's a little bit with Shigeo, a little bit, but like the actual growth I think progresses throughout the whole story. Like maybe especially season two, there's a lot of growth, and season three, it's like huge amount of growth. I didn't notice too much of growth. I'm not saying there isn't any, but it's like
well,
season one there isn't too much.
it's like for me the biggest growth in season one is just with Shigeo with Mob himself. Like,
Yeah,
because in the beginning he is kind of a nothing character. Like, he doesn't have much of an impression. He doesn't really have any desires. He doesn't have any strong characteristics. But cleverly throughout the entire season, you see him start to gain something. Like,
yeah,
it's not like all of his development throughout the entire series is in this season, but you see him
no,
kind of become more of a person by himself, which really sets the stage nicely for season two, where a lot of
season
his growth
two,
does happen.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's also wonderful is the pacing of each character's growth because you can see how some are much slower than others, some are much quicker than others. And yeah, like I said, Teru, his character progression kind of happens in the span of an episode after losing the mob. Um, and so yeah, continuing with the story, there are other espers. There's like people who abuse their powers. There's a whole organization that is filled with people who use their powers for not the betterment of mankind, and they use it essentially, and to quote the show, to hurt others, which is something that Reagan tells Mob to never do, like never use your powers on others. So he's really kind of not it kind of balances the line between like good and bad because for every bad thing that Reagan does, there's a good thing that he does, and he's I can't like delay this anymore. Reagan Arataka is my favorite anime character. Genuinely, in my opinion, the greatest anime character ever.
He's definitely in my top five. Like, Kind of like I said, the rest of the series does nothing but justify it. But again, if I just had just this one season with this guy, he would already be in my top 10 at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, he his comedy, but some we haven't even talked about yet. The show is very funny too.
It is hilarious. I laughed so many times during it.
It is so easy to laugh at this
Like,
series.
um,
Every joke works.
you were talking about how Terry's character development happens over the course of like an episode, and I just think of the scene after the fight happened, and Mob is just looking at Reagan like, "Hey, what do you do when you take someone, strip them naked, shave their head, and destroy their entire school?"
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. The timing perfect. The jokes always hit. And this is perfectly shown through Reagan. All of Reagan's he's usually the butt end of a lot of jokes. You know, he's not necessarily a straight man, but he takes a lot of the ends of jokes because he is the one without psychic powers in the story.
He's
But
both the most logical one in a room, but also the most goofiest. Like,
yeah,
he has the best head on his shoulders, usually by being the only adult in the room, but he's also not that bright sometimes.
exactly. Like he makes mistakes and he admits to making mistakes multiple times throughout the series. He's a very human character in a show that emphasizes humanity over like being a supernatural psychic person. Because in the end, that's what matters most to Mob and that's what is matters most to us as viewers is they're not necessarily psychics who have humanity. They're humans who gained Esperity, you know. So, but more on Reagan. Um, season 1, episode 11. He has no. Let me preface this: no psychic powers. Doesn't know the situation at all, but immediately runs into the Claw Division outpost, and this is like the evil organization of season 1. We're led up to believe that these are super powerful psychics. I think we see Ritsuya, Mob's brother, lose to
Yeah, Ritsu.
one of the yeah, Ritsu loses to one, and maybe even Shigeo is kind of knocked out at this point, or maybe asleep. I can't remember. I
It,
don't think he lost yet.
the timeline of kind of the last couple episodes kind of blurs together, so I'm not
Yeah,
sure, but
it's so
things are not
quick to
going well
watch.
for them.
Yeah, but yeah, basically things are not going well for the three main characters who we know are psychics, who we know have very powerful psychic abilities. And Reagan pulls up to the outpost, no powers, he's like, well, I can't believe they're in this place. And then
Like,
he convinces an entire army of the division that he's the supreme boss, not by trying to do so. They just believe him. They just blindly follow him because he is Reagan. He just immediately takes command of the place.
and for me, the funny thing part about that is like, as we established, Reagan is a con man. He is a liar. He's not the best person. He is not above lying and tricking to these people, but he just doesn't need to.
He didn't need to in this case. He pulls up, tells them that what they're doing is wrong and they should stop. That they should be like, "What are you guys doing here? Where's my butt?" And then they just start following him, and he just takes control.
It's like,
And the season 1 finale is perfect. But keep going,
and
keep
that whole
going.
thing also works on a very thematic level as well, because this entire season we're exploring not only kind of cult mentality, but also individualism and kind of how people don't have a strong sense of self and how they will often flock to people who claim to have one, which is often in a cult. Reagan is very confident. He's very sure. He just spoke, matter of fact, left nothing up, and everyone just assumed, oh, he was the boss. Reagan could start a
And
cult if he wanted to.
yeah, at any point in time, I think it's made obvious that even it's pointed out. I think maybe season 2 that like Shigeo could start like a cult.
Well, there already is a cult.
Oh yeah, there is already a cult. Yeah, but I think I can't remember the girl's name that he always talks to with the camera, but
I don't
I think she even says like, "Oh, you should be the leader." Yeah, so at the finale of season 1, we get honestly one of like the most important scenes in my opinion from the series, and it's not because it's followed up by Reagan actually gaining psychic powers, but when Reagan like Mob is terrified, he is so overwhelmed, and Reagan just says, "It's okay, you don't have to fight. You're a child, like you don't have to fight."
Yeah, it's like, for me, that's really the part that proved that Reagan genuinely cares about Mob. Like, before, you've seen that, like, he's said some good advice, but at this
Cares? Yeah,
moment, he is telling Mob something at kind of a disadvantage to himself because he could easily just tell Mob to deal with everything and Reagan's gonna get out of it okay. But despite everything
yeah,
going on, he is telling this kid to don't do something because it's going to negatively affect him.
yeah. And if there were any doubts on Reagan prior to this episode, they're all gone at this point in season one. Like season one, episode 12, he what he does is he tells instead of lying to someone, he's honest. And like I said, we said this multiple times. He's not afraid of lying to Mob. He's not afraid of lying to anyone. That's just who he is. But he chooses in this instance to be as completely honest as possible with Mob. And it proves once again that he is the best person for Mob throughout the entire series. Like they both need each other, but that piece of advice, like imagine being in a situation where you're so overwhelmed and someone just says, oh, it'll be all right. We'll figure it out. That doesn't make you feel too much better. They're just kind of empty words. But if someone sits you down and says, you don't have to do this anymore. Like you don't have to fight. Let me handle this. That's so much more like we've all been in situations where you kind of just want to stop doing what you're doing because everything's just attacking you, everything just rah rah rah. And like a great example of this is like if you're getting like bullied, right? Now I was fortunate enough to not really experience this in my life to any kind of extreme degree, but there are so many kids and so many adults even who will struggle with bullying or stuff like this. And you know how many times they probably want someone just to step in and say, "You don't have to fight this person. Let me fight this person." Instead of saying, "Oh, it'll be all right. Oh, the school will figure it out." No, someone is actually going to take care of it. Like that
Mm-hmm.
reassurance that it is going to be taken care of and you don't have to deal with it. Even like we can take this to like an abusive level, right? This means so much. Like if you're struggling with anything of this sort where you feel trapped in a situation where you are overwhelmed in and someone finally alleviates that pain and just says, I'll take care of it. It's okay. You don't have to fight this. Even if you end up contributing to it, just knowing that someone is going to be there for you and someone is going to help you through it and they are committed to it. They are doing it. That means so much and it's all emphasized in this final that little conversation they have.
And then it's followed up by some of the goofiest shit imaginable.
Yeah, I mean, at first, once again, expectation subversion. You kind of think, wait, did Reagan just awaken psychic powers? But in telling Mob these words, Mob some it's a fantasy, it's a supernatural series, so I'm gonna let it slide without very little explanation. But Mob transfers his psychic energy to Reagan
It
and
works
makes
for the
Reagan
story
as
and the
strong as
theme,
possible.
so we'll just go along with it.
You gave one of the greatest metaphors and similes I've ever seen in my entire life. Like that was such a great, you know, little piece of literature that I'm gonna let explanation slide so I can watch Reagan kick some ass. And kick some ass he does, by the way.
I just
Yeah, so overall, what would you say season one?
season one is okay. Something I was not expecting to praise about season one so much. Going back to it is how well the pacing is done. I'm like never bored throughout this entire season. Like there's always something interesting happens that always flows well into the next thing. To where it's 12 episodes, but it kind of feels like five sometimes because everything just flows into each other so well.
Yeah, for me, it feels like five in a good way. That it's same way it feels like 24.
Yeah,
Like I feel like we're getting more, and we're getting like we're not spending as much time. There's no filler really. Everything that is shown is important and vital, and will gets built up on in the next season.
but it also stands really well as its own season. Like
It does.
again, this was for a lot of people when it came out the only season they had, and it was still a lot of people's favorite series, which season two would only go to reinforce that.
Yeah, I think if I had much to say about season one, it is a as a standalone season. If we never got season two, season three, it is still fantastic. It would be such a great series. I compare it to like all the other shows and series that only have like 12 episodes or even 24 episodes for that matter, and
Mhm.
it stands up with them.
Yeah.
And it's hard for a supernatural shonen type series to only have 12 episodes, right? And so for something to be that good in one season with high comedy, interesting characters, and wonderful animation, just it's amazing. It's stellar. I'm so happy.
It's hard to believe that it kind of only keeps going, getting up from here.
Yeah,
Because
right.
if I watched season one back in the day, I would get the vibes of this is going to be a phenomenal season, followed up by a subpar season. It just kind of gives off those vibes.
Yeah, I mean, once again, expectation subversion, but yeah, you kind of get that season one. You're like, all right, this is gonna be great, but now let's see
It's like
what do they do
they're not going to be
next,
able to do the
right?
lightning in a bottle again.
Yeah,
Season two.
uh, yeah. Let's great transition to season two.
Okay,
Um,
you were talking about the seasons kind of as they stand on their own. If I was looking at each season by themselves, season two would probably be the best one. Like,
I I'm gonna agree. Um, but once again, Reagan is my favorite character, and this season kind of has a lot more important Reagan moments throughout the entire series. And honestly, we'll get to it, but the greatest Reagan moment, in my opinion.
again, season one established everyone's characters, but this is where we really explore everything.
And it started away. This is where I started taking notes. Season two, episode one. Let me get my notes up. Sorry. Season two, episode one. I love this episode.
This
It makes me cry. It's so
it
good.
is the perfect reestablishing episode, kind of for season two. It also does a good job of like kind of saying what we're going to be doing in the season.
It I think each first episode kind of does that
Mm.
for each season. It's like, yeah, this is what we're gonna try and tackle. It kind of gives you the information that you need, especially on like rewatch. I saw this, but oh, man, I think this is such an underrated episode of Mob, and it's an underrated episode of anime in general.
It does not get talked about enough, definitely.
Um, and when I always like to say that when there's a writer character in a series, that character might be a self insert from the author. I'm not
That's
gonna say it is, but I always say there's a chance, a high
it's a
chance.
higher likelihood than any other character being a self-insert.
Exactly. A great instance of this is I always say this for like if you've seen the series Bloom Into You, great romance story. There's a playwright character, and I am convinced that that is the author of the series. You cannot change that.
It's
But
been a while since I've read it, so I can't say for sure.
yeah, I just personally I think so. But when you look at like the character, I think her name is Emmy, right? Emmy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it could be a self insert, regardless of which. What a great character.
she's very simple, but you understand what's going on with her. Like,
Exactly. And she fits perfectly as a transition from season 1 to season 2.
yeah,
Because in season 1 we talked about this how it's very oriented around cults and how you can be a blind follower to someone by losing your individuality. And she kind of follows her friends. She's like she continues the same kind of ideas that her friends do until she wants to explore her own thing, which is writing. And when they kind of rip it up and trash it, it takes Shigeo Mob, you know, to come up and kind of prove his individuality, which then kind of inspires her to be an individual rather than
yeah.
follow her friends and crowd.
And it's like this was stuff I was like season one, where it's like at the beginning, Mob isn't almost a person all that much. Like he's kind of just going through everything blankly, not really know what he wants to do, and you instantly get into season. He is not that same kid at the beginning of season one. It's like
He wants to be so much more now.
yeah, it's like season one. It was Mob trying to figure out like who he is, and season two is like how do I be that person?
And it just starts with I love this episode. This is one of the episodes I wrote so much notes like
If
with each individual piece like flying in the wind, and Emmy kind of reflects that mentality of it's not worth it, let's just give up. And Shigeo is like, no, this is something I care about now. he's taking command of his life for the first time, and it's shown through putting that book back together. And he uses his powers for the first time to like that he can notice he's helping someone.
Yeah. It's like
It is so impactful.
if I have one criticism on this episode, it's more of a hindsight thing. It's the fact that Emmy just kind of disappears after this episode.
Yeah, and the series does really well at bringing all the characters back
Like
in throughout.
all the side characters always have like a nice story that kind of ends up coming back in one way or another. She's the only one that just kind of after this.
Yeah, and it is when we say we have to like the most fine-tooth comb to find problems with this series.
Yeah.
I genuinely mean this is like
this is
this is hypodermic needle comb. Like we are.
This is a nitpick within a nitpick. I'm not even nitpicking what happens in this. I am nitpicking stuff that happens later.
Technically, you're nitpicking stuff that doesn't happen,
Exactly.
right? Like that's how little there is to pick with this series. And yeah, I think this episode underrated, probably the most underrated in the series, and like I said, one of the most underrated in all of anime.
If I were thinking underrated episodes in this season, it would have to be episode 3, which
That's another good one.
again really continues the thing of Mob is not like he's trying to be his own person, but he's actively questioning everything around him. Like he's questioning where he fits in, what is his place in everything, and what does it mean for him to be involved with stuff the way he is.
Yeah, and his interactions at that episode are you really get to see that like kind of that mentality of questioning, you know. And it's something that we all go through, so we can easily relate to Mob in these episodes. And I think even at this point, this is where a little bit of a divide with Reagan starts, right? Is
It's like
season 3 or season 2, episode 3, right? I think
you
a little bit of a
kind
divide.
of see that Mob is in a different place than before, but Reagan is still
Is in the same.
himself. Like you see
Yeah.
him again sticking up for Mob at the end of the episode, just calling everything off, telling the customers to go to like f off.
Yeah, like yeah, get out. We're not doing this today.
It's like it's like, but it's more. It does take a bit of time for him to notice something is really upsetting or going wrong with Mob before.
Yeah, and I think that's driven by he's given that like success right from his website,
Yeah,
and so he's kind of focused on himself for once, and he then he like kind of snaps out of it at the end. He's like, wait, I gotta help Mob, you know,
yeah.
because he does like we said before, he genuinely cares about Mob, and anytime he does something wrong, he does feel bad in the end.
And
But you know, and it is an underrated episode because it does tackle once again all the issues that we are going through in season 2 for Mob, and really well kind of laid out that the from start to finish you could see the progression of the episode, how each character kind of fits within it and how it connects to the rest of the story.
Episodes 4 and 5.
So let me preface. Um, so NoTea and one of my other best friends had recommended me this show, this series, Mob Psycho. It was 2021.
21, yeah.
Yeah. And so there was only season 1 and there was season 1 and season 2 out. And so I was like, yeah, you know, if these two people who I really trust their anime opinion on, are recommending me this series, I'll watch it. And so I watched it, and I watched it all in like 2 days, which, if you know me, that's something I never do. I consider myself in my anime retirement. I'm always really slow with anime, but it was that good. And the only really preface I got was like season 2, episode 4, season 2, episode 5. That's like all I was told. I didn't know what happened, but that's what I got.
I'm pretty sure we were on Discord together watching episode 5 together.
I think we were, yeah. I always speak about it.
My Wi-Fi was shit, so we couldn't like share our screens, so we were just sending Snapchats back together of our reactions.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because you said I want to watch it with you. That's why I remember season 2, episode. Oh my god, those episodes are fire.
Like season 4, no, not season 4. Episode 4 has the best use of horror throughout the entire series. Like the series is supernatural, but it never really gets all that scary. It gets a bit eerie sometimes, but in terms
Yeah,
of pure
but
tension and unsettlingness and suspense, episode 4 is kind of the best the series gets.
yeah, before I we get into the glory of these two episodes, I do want to mention that there is a lot of supernatural stuff that happens in the series, folklore, legends,
Yeah.
ghosts, spirits, but it never feels like a horror production.
Hmm.
It always I don't I think this is safe for all. I'm particularly not a fan of horror as a genre.
Yeah.
Um, it could be I respect you if you do, but it's just not something for me. But I don't even notice it in this series. That's how well. So that's like don't get discouraged if you think it's going to be scary because it's not. It's
It
not.
is really
It's not
not.
scary at all. No, it's so easily manageable. It's well done. So, but getting back into season 2 episode 4, it is unsettling like no end. Oh my god.
Like the colors are muted right out the gate. Kind of the gathering of people is always kind of weird. The framing of kind of the glass room versus everything else is it creates a pretty interesting divide between our heroes and what they're up against, kind of right off the bat.
And it does kind of cut back to like Reagan and Dimple a few times, so you kind of get that like alleviation of like this isn't right now reality, but for Mob it is reality.
Mm. But mom
Now
just
hear
doesn't
me
even know
out.
what's going on.
Oh yeah, he's in it like this is his normal day life. But hear me out, okay? Hear me out. So this episode came out in 2019, right?
Hmm.
Do you know what episode that this might draw inspiration from?
What's
Like
that?
really think about it. Really think about it. Really think. Now hear me out. This is me being me. But Flip Flappers, the most underrated anime of all time,
Eh.
came out in 2017, right? And season 2, episode I think it's 6, right? With the school, just muted colors, bunch of character groupings with discarded faces that we never see the faces in the mob episode. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It might have there might be a connection there.
Eh.
All right, but continue. Season 2, episode 4.
Yeah. It's like, and something I really like this episode does is you see Reagan throughout the entire series doesn't have a very high opinion of himself. Like he's constantly questioning what he's doing. But he kind of proves in this episode that he's usually the most competent person in a room.
Yeah, somehow he always like stumbles back, and then that stumble gives him like the extra footing to run the extra
Yeah.
mile. And um, just by being, and I think it's because it's really early on we're given that he is his individual, right? He's always this big personality that's somewhat okay with himself. Like he questions why he's doing things, but he lives this life and he's confident and he's sure of himself. And that's what Mob wants to be. And so that's what he's kind of he's always able to manipulate the room and take control because he just makes decisions. That's it. He's just the decision maker. Even if they end up hurting initially, he just sticks to his guns and is like, I made this decision. And this is one of the steps to adulthood is accepting the decisions you make regardless of if it's positive or negative. And that's kind of the outlook he has. He is very adult. He sits down and he makes a decision.
Yeah, it's like
And then go ahead.
I don't know what I was about to say. You
Mm. Well, I was just gonna say episode 5.
probably the best episode of the entire series if we're being real. Like
If I need to be objective,
yeah, like we're looking at this objectively. Like one episode to try to sell someone on the series. Well,
like if you knew all the previous information that we like up to this season 2, episode 5 is objectively the best episode,
yeah, it
and it is capped off with probably the greatest animation Bones has ever done.
it might be some of the best like just TV animation we have seen in general.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like the scale that this episode gets to is something you really don't see a lot in TV anime.
When when you get to explore what I like to call like dream worlds or fantasy worlds or worlds that aren't our own world, you are not limited to reality. And so there are some great mangas that do this, and there are some great animes that tackle this, but this is the one that gets everything right. The fight, beautiful choreography, beautiful cinematography, sound design is perfect. This, like we said, the scale of it, the scaling, you know, oh, it looks divine. It is so wonderful.
And like talking about the story of the episode, it does a very good job in the first half of trying to establish the conflict of Mob being in this, like green world kind of going through a nightmare leading up to the second half. And it's like the plan of the main villain is to try to like break Mob a bit to kind of become a follower of him to believe as he believes, which you see multiple times throughout the series of people trying to tell Mob, hey, you're just like me, do what I'm doing, yada yada yada. But the reason it always fails is because they're not actually trying to connect with Mob. It's like they're not looking at Mob for who he is, what he wants, what he's trying to do. They just always assume Mob is like them. So if something makes them happy, it's gonna make Mob happy.
Yeah, all the espers do that. Even the main villain ends up doing that, right?
Yeah,
And so, it's great to see Shigo kind of like he so much wants to be his own person that the worst life imaginable for him doesn't even break him because it's his life.
yeah,
Kind of feels like, in an essence, like ReZero season 2, right? Where it's
somewhat.
like it can't even break him, right? And that's awesome. It's
Well, it's like
wonderful, right?
it just kind of shows Mob's viewpoints, like because the whole point of that thing is kind of showing, oh, if you don't have the people in your life, you are nothing, like you are worthless. And instead of taking that as a down thing, Mob's like, oh, I need to be more appreciative of of those people,
Yeah, yeah.
because
He
that
he takes the positive outlook.
yeah, like that is who he is. That's not who Megami was trying to look at him as.
Hmm. And another thing with that, I don't think we expect to have that spectacular of a fight. And obviously, it's the best episode, so I'm happy we have it. But you don't even need it really for the entire like episode to work. I'm
Yeah,
so happy it's there. But the first part of the episode where there is no spectacular, wonderful animated fight is
it's
still
just
so interesting.
it's just like muted, almost plain colors, and then a cinematic aspect ratio. That's kind of it.
And it works so well. And when Dimple is there and Dimple is trying to get him out of it, he's like, "Oh, come on, Chigo, we got this. You could get it." And it does eventually like get him to work. And when he realizes it, and then he like the final like confrontation with Megami after the fight's over, when Megami finally realizes like, "Oh, I done goofed up. You know, this kid is gonna go on to do like spectacular thing. Like this kid is it."
But yeah.
And yeah.
So while episode 5 might be my favorite, episode 6 and 7 are probably my favorite.
No, so episode 5 would be the best, and then these two are your favorite.
Yes.
Okay.
Like these
I can't agree
episodes
more.
are why I refuse to take the point people point out that the season peaks at episode 5. It is good the entire way through.
It is. It gets better, in my opinion.
Honestly, yeah.
I think episode 7 of season 2. It's up there. It might be my favorite anime episode. Um, certainly one of my favorite, if not my favorite, anime scene. I put it up there with like specific manga panels. Like I put that's how high it is. Like I'm saying this is as good as like Go Beyond, like the Gear Fifth. I think this is up there with those scenes.
Yeah. So
So why don't we start by talking about season 2, episode 6 and 7? What do we think?
a small detail that happens in episode 6 I don't see a lot of people talk about is so you have the beginning part of the episode where you kind of see the new life that Mob has been building up for himself. Like he's working out constantly, he's hanging out with friends, he's going to restaurants, he's getting invited to stuff, he's enjoying himself. And then you see Reagan call him, and that is the exact same scene from the season 1 episode 1.
Season 1, yeah.
Like it's the same
It
people, same dialogue. You don't see the ghost, but you can assume it's the same one. And it's really does a good job of showing like Mob in his life is progressing, he's growing, he's changing. but things as they are with Reagan are still the same, and that's no longer a good thing.
Yeah, and to a point, it's like Reagan was, he didn't need to grow because his growth would change Mob. So at like season one, him kind of staying pretty stagnant as a character improves Mob's life. Now it's starting to degrade Mob's life because Mob is a different person. Mob has like grown as a person. And so this is where Reagan has to sit back and start to grow and take the pains of growing.
Yeah, because like you're always kind of a bit questionable with the relationship at the beginning because it's literally like grown man kind of using a middle schooler. You can see the good parts of it, but I do appreciate this actually taking the chance to peel that back and looking at the more rougher parts of it or the parts of it that doesn't work. Because, like you said, their relationship was very good for both of them, considering where they're at that point. But one of them is very much not at that point anymore. So is it still good for the both of them?
Yeah, and then you kind of get the Reagan Mob divide for the episode, and you don't see them working together, and Reagan's starting to do his own thing, but then he gets like a lot of publicity, and because he shows up to that was it the television show, I think.
Yeah. Well, what I
And
found interesting about that part of the episode is like objectively him making his business independent of Mob and basing it around things that he can do is a good thing. Like making it so he doesn't have to depend on
yeah,
Mob so heavily is a good
yeah,
thing. But at that moment, that wasn't the right thing to do because that was just avoiding the problem of what is going on with Mob.
exactly. And it challenges the idea of like you can't avoid your problems by running away and doing your own thing. You have to face them to finally end that conflict within you and externally.
Yeah.
And this is a great example of that because he kind of does his own thing, becomes relatively successful in doing so, but because it's not the right thing he should be doing, the series kind of pulls him together and is like, hey, we're going to knock you down because you're not doing the right thing. And that's kind of how life works, right? If you know you're not doing the right thing, you'll know really soon. You'll be like, oh, wow, I'm definitely making wrong decisions right now.
It's like either going to get away with it for a long time or eventually it's just going to come out of nowhere and knock you flat on your ass.
Exactly. And that's kind of what it does. And, Reagan it's really hard to watch a character that's in control of every situation he's in and immediately get thrown into a situation where he has no control and he's completely out of it and
Well,
he's called out.
but this is like the second episode in a row that he's kind of hit a rock bottom because in episode 6, you see him try to socialize with people outside of Mob, but he just feels empty and he feels miserable. Like he gets drunk on a non-alcoholic drink. That's when he
Mm-hmm.
kind of decides to, okay, I'm going to rebuild, make something of myself. I can do this without Mob. And then he just kind of falls even lower
And then,
the next
yeah,
time.
it's like, by avoiding the problem, he thinks he's going to, like, there's like a 1 day benefit that starts a lifetime of failure. And it hits him to his core. And these episodes are probably like episode 6 is probably one of the hardest to watch
Mm,
because you don't want to see these
yeah.
characters separate. You want Reagan to be a good character.
But you have to acknowledge that his best friend in the world is a middle schooler.
Yeah, like he has to recognize. We all recognize this. And it's like there's this show tries to stay as realistic as possible for it being such a supernatural series,
Mm-hmm.
which leads us to episode 7's
Cancel
wonderful
culture.
moment,
Cancel culture.
cancer culture. So, um, Reagan is basically called out for being a fraud, and
Which he
almost the
is.
whole world, which he is, and like he is, and so
It's
the
it's
whole
an
world kind of
it's interesting because
calls
we can recognize he's a fraud, but most of the people leveling these charges against him are all kind of dicks in their own right.
yeah, and once again, we could say this ties back to that cult blind mentality. Everyone just suddenly jumps on it and doesn't think for their own opinion. And maybe he might not be a fraud, but everyone jumps on like he's a fraud. He does blah, 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 blah. And so he voluntarily, on his birthday, goes to this conference, basically this interview that's broadcasted live, where he's gonna face the allegations that he's a fraud, and he's just gonna try and Reagan his way through it.
Well, remember originally he got that sort of speech from his mom because his mom just wanted him to just admit to everything and just put this past and
Yeah,
move on with his life. And it wasn't until like the
his
last,
mom wanted him to do like an office job. I think he's like, why don't you
yeah,
just do a simple office job? Why are you such a failure? And it's on his birth, and like he checks his like I think it was like mob book or like the knockoff Facebook
yeah,
where he wants to see his messages for his birthday. And the only message he got wasn't even like a happy birthday from his mom. It was his mom telling him that he's a failure,
that he needs to get his shit together and like grow up.
which he does. Like this is once again kind of good
It,
advice for him,
it's
but it hurts to watch.
it's the right advice, but coming from a wrong place.
Exactly. Wrong place, wrong time. The advice he needs to hear. And this leads to him showing up, getting berated, and then we see Shigeo Mob notices this on the TV, and
But like
at the
you get the moment of just Reagan kind of have to ask, "What am I doing?" And
yeah,
like,
am I the bad guy?
and then he rethinks his entire relationship with Mob, where it's like, I would have stopped doing this a long time ago if it wasn't for Mob and realizing Mob is such an important person in his life, but realizing he has done Mob wrong in a couple of ways by just like he has helped the kid in some ways, but in other ways he has felt like he held Mob back, which somewhat
and
like
and then when they finally start berating him with the last questions, he looks at the camera and just says, "You've really grown up."
because that's what Reagan really needed to do. He needed to admit his relationship with Mob is changing, and that is not a bad thing.
He needs to accept, and that was his acceptance. He took all the pains of growing, and he went through this amazing growth, and it's such a wonderful scene because he admit in saying you have grown up, he says, "I'm wrong. I was always wrong. What I did was wrong." You don't need that scene of him apologizing all over and over again because we know that and Mob knows that. But getting him to admit that he was wrong just by simply saying and admitting to Mob that you have grown up, you have changed, and that's a good thing. That's enough for anyone to be
Yeah. And then
happy.
we get
And
to the final scene.
wouldn't you know it, so by doing that, all of a sudden the interview lights start
Like
psychic
the
powers
ground
and
starts
the
shaking.
ground's shaking and all the camera guys are like, oh, what's going on? Oh my god, he is really a psychic. And then the broadcast cuts. And so we're left with the end. Maybe people do believe that he's psychic. Maybe people don't. We don't know. As an
Something
audience, we
always
know.
happens that he can work with.
Yeah, as an audience, we know it's actually Shigeo. And that leads to the scene that I wrote on 2 pages and could write forever on. Top three scene in all of anime, season 2, episode 7's finale.
Just simple
Why don't you start?
conversation. It's it's kind of a Reagan was struggling for a while with figuring out like how he sees Mob and how he sees himself. He has grown to a better place, but he feels like I don't know if I can kind of get back to where we were before. But Mob states how he sees Reagan, who he sees Reagan as, and like that's Reagan is a good guy. Like he has his faults. He can be kind of a dick sometimes, but he's a good guy.
And the start of the conversation, great symbolism. I watched the scene a trillion times probably. Like I've seen this more than I've seen the back of my hand. And like Reagan starts in the dark. Like the sunlight it's at sunset, so you're allowed to play with the lighting a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a really smart animation technique. Is putting important scenes at sunset so you can play with lighting. Do that in animation. It's wonderful. And so Reagan is always casted in the dark, and you never really get to see a clear look of his face because he's always. And Mob and Dimple are always kind of in sunlight, and so they're kind of showing that like the how where they are at their place right now. And until the wonderful emotional scene, like so basically Reagan asks Mob, he's like, "Did you know from the start like who I am, or do you know who I really am?" Basically, and Mob says, "I've known from the start." And it's like, so this kind of like scares Reagan. He's like, oh, it's up. It'll never be as good as it was. And wonderful subversion where he just says, you're just a good guy. Because that's all that matters to Mob. He they already had the apology. Like I said, on the TV, that was their apology. That's all Mob wanted to hear. And this like brings light, and you literally see the light like kind of build up to Reagan's face. He gets a smile.
Like he starts
It's so
looking up
awesome.
again.
Yeah, yeah, he looks up, and it's awesome. And he's Reagan's just like, ah, come on, let's go get some ramen. And it ends with one of the most tear-jerking scenes in anime, where they're walking off into the sunset, they're going to get their ramen, and Chigo just says, "Oh, master, happy birthday." It really gives us that poetic, wonderful ending with you get to see the shadows of the three just kind of like together, and it's everything you want in this series and everything you want from the character.
It's truly, these two episodes are my favorite of both the season, possibly of the entire series, just for the phenomenal character work that goes in them, both in the build up leading up to it and the exploration that happens within it. And I love how after this, their relationship is different. Like, they don't just return to the
Yeah,
status quo they had before, they have a new relationship that is healthy for both of them this time.
we talked in our previous episode about how when you make a relationship decision, when you make a commitment, you have to stick with it in order for it to feel good with your audience. And they do. The relationship is different. It's well handled. You know, Lots of positives. In my opinion, season 1 episode 7 is the best episode of Mob
Season 2,
Psycho.
episode 7.
And season 2 episode 7. Probably season 1 episode 7 is good too, but
Which one was that again?
I honestly don't remember. That one's the Ritzia.
It's one of the.
Oh, White Tea Poison. Yeah, that's a good episode though.
I just love the trope
Um,
of unsuspecting character becomes religious symbol.
it is really good. But yeah, season 2 episode 7 is my favorite episode of Mob, and it's definitely in my top 5 favorite episodes of anime in general. And like I said, as far as scenes go, two of the scenes that are my favorite scenes, one is an anime, Gear Fifth. Just the whole transition of that is fantastic, and one is a manga. Yeah, it's perfect. And one is a manga panel of Go Beyond from JoJolion,
Mm,
probably the greatest in my opinion. But
yeah.
this one is a very solid 3 to that. Like that's the contest we're dealing with here, and it's just a conversation with an adult and a kid
Not an
and a
inappropriate one.
spirit. Not an inappropriate one. Yeah, this isn't the Catholic Church.
Wow.
And then so we finish season 2 with
Yeah.
right after that we kind of start the last arc
We start the.
of
Episode
season.
8 is a transition episode, just like.
Yeah, kind of and
Kind of, again, showing this is where everyone's at now, this is what we're doing, it's fun, it's positive, you feel good. Then the final
house burned
season
down.
ends.
House is burning down. Ugh. Oh,
And then.
no, literally the last scene is the house is on fire with Shigeo's family, which we haven't talked about a lot, but Shigeo has like a mom, a dad, and a younger brother, and the younger brother also has psychic powers, and mom and dad are what we seem to be normal.
And
And
they take
Shigeo
everything
loves
really
them.
well.
Yeah, and Shigeo loves these people with all of his. And one of his reasons he doesn't use his powers to hurt others at the beginning is because he accidentally hurt his brother with his powers when he went too far. And so we get early on and forever, we know that Shigeo loves his family, and he just goes question mark, question mark, question mark, and just
Yeah.
not good.
I will say for the rest of the season, while I do love it, I don't have as much to say about it as some of the previous, like, 4 episodes.
I think it's just because it's done well.
Yeah.
It's adapted perfectly. It's what it handles is so strong and so good that there isn't really too much to say besides it's good,
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I'd have two big things I'd want to talk about, like the last couple or so episodes.
Yeah.
Well, three things. One of them is just Reagan only deciding to fight these people to get his insurance claim. Like that is
Yeah, it's just a great. He's like, because the entire like episode 9 and episode 10, he's like, let's not fight him. You know,
we'll call the
kind of
cops.
they're
They can
chilling.
handle it.
Yeah, call the police. He's like, he's eating ramen. He's like, not nothing
And
problem.
it's not even like
And then
fancy ramen. It is cup ramen. Like
yeah, he's literally he doesn't care, right? And then all of a sudden he's like, wait, I could get an insurance claim out of this. Come on,
yeah.
come on, Terror, let's get this.
And then this
And
second one is Reagan beating Shimazaki is one of the best jokes I have seen in anything ever.
it is. It could be the funniest moment in the series.
Yeah,
the self defense rush.
There's like funny
But
running jokes, but this singular moment, because like we just saw this man spend the entire episode almost effortlessly beating everyone else. He is shown to be near unstoppable. Like he is the number 2 for a reason. He is one. He is standing on top. He's like he's in charge.
And he beats characters that we recognize and know as almost mob's level, like barely losing the mob, like Ritsuya, Teru, and
like
all the wonderful members of the previous claw.
But then you see Mob showing up. Like this, the aspect ratio changes again, and you are expecting something big. You zoom out, and you just see Reagan walking in. He watch the scene again. He is not drawn in the same way as Shimazaki.
He's not.
Like Shimazaki has like a bunch of dark, jagged lines. Like he's very angular, and Reagan is pencil thin. He almost looks like kind of a chibi version of himself, or like a sketch version of himself. Like he walks 2 steps.
Self-defense rush.
Which the explanation of if you don't know if you're defending yourself or not, just yell it. Just yell it, and it'll be self-defense.
Yeah, what a wonderful mentality of I can just beat up everyone because it's just self-defense if I say it.
And then again, continuing the wonderful theme of things just falling in place for Reagan, because this guy now assumes that Reagan is basically a god because he can't sense anything off him. Everyone is calling him master. Everyone is like worshiping this guy.
Yeah, well, everyone kind of follows Reagan once again because he is just a confident person. But this also challenges one of the ideas that we recently presented. But what's his name?
Shimazaki.
Yeah, Shimazaki is always focused on only the psychic abilities of others.
Right, he's blind, so he can sense everything with psychic energy, but at the point in the fight, he's only focusing on that stuff. He cannot see anything else.
Everything else is invisible to him, which it doesn't really need to be visible to him up until that point. And this kind of goes to the idea of you are more than your psychic abilities. This is what Mob wants to learn, and this is a wonderful fight to show that.
You are more than what you're born with or like what you have when you're born.
You are so much more than gifts that you have. You're so much more than that. You are yourself, and that is something that you should be. You are human, and that's enough and so much at the same time. But we like you said, we see Shigeo enter the picture, and he's like, oh, I gotta focus all my attention on this guy. He's so powerful.
And he's thinking like, oh, this guy's gonna be like a really good fight. I'm getting excited.
Yeah,
let's do this.
Like this is Mogami Part 2. But we get something even better, which is Reagan just knocking him out with just old-fashioned peanut butter jelly, you know? And that's great because it shows once again kind of the overall themes of the series. Reagan is his own individual. He is at this point accepted his humanity and uses it to beat someone who's so focused on the gifts of life, he doesn't even notice. And his immediate reaction is, oh my god, this guy must be the most powerful psychic ever. And it's just a normal person.
He used his abilities to beat up a blind man.
Yeah. Okay, if we want to... Takes a middle schooler in as a part-time worker.
Underpays
beats
him.
Up a blind man. Overthrows a cult 2 times. Destroyed public property. Okay, Reagan might not be the best at it.
He definitely had. You could definitely make court cases against him, and he's a fraud. So you could sue him for like wrong, harmful business practices because he is advertising something he's
just malpractice. That's literally malpractice. But so the last thing I wanted to talk about from the end of season 2 is not Toichiro, Serizawa.
That's Serizawa, yeah.
Serizawa. Yeah. Um, what a fantastic like side villain.
Well, not
We
even
see
just villain, just character, because he's
his character. He's not really a villain.
yeah.
Antagonist at first, but he becomes, a solid character. And it's just because he's not given the light of day from anyone, but one person, Toichiro, comes in and kind of shows him that, hey, you can use your gifts to better yourself. And so we get that kind of that plurality, the parallel between like the main villain and the main and protagonist, and you can see like they both kind of enhance people's lives. One does it for the wrong reason, one does it for probably better reasons.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we do see Serizawa's life get enhanced through joining Claw.
Is this to what end that is going to? Is this? It's like the person who is pushing you. Are they just genuinely a good person who cares about you?
And that's the difference.
And you kind of see with Reagan at first, he is kind of using it for his own means, but he is ultimately a good person who wouldn't go all the way with something like that.
And when they get that confrontation, that's finally what they realize. It's like Serizawa isn't as cared for as Shigeo is with Mom and Serizawa and Koshiro.
Yeah.
And it ends with the season 2, episode 12 ends with what a wonderful fight. Another wonderful fight. Not as good as the Mogami, but it is as big as the Mogami.
In any other season, this just would be the best fight, hands down. It's just, imagine just seeing that fight and being told, no, this is not the best fight of the season.
Yeah, it would be impossible. It'd be like watching like I can't even compare it to anything. Like I'm blank on comparisons because you just can't. So it ends episode 13. Oh, go ahead.
And the third thing I want to talk about is kind of Mob's final speech to Suzuki as he's like gonna blow up, like, because this is really Mob's answer that he's kind of been building towards this entire time. Because like against all these people that they faced off with, you're constantly telling him things, trying to talk to him, trying to convert him, and Mob, he responds with things that he has heard from people. Like Reagan's words are constantly what he's constantly coming back with, and it's like Mob has been struggling with his own personhood, where he stands with everything. So he doesn't have his own answer to everything he has been faced with. But with this episode, against someone who's uniquely challenged like him and his ideals, he kind of comes up with his own answer, which is a response to what everyone else says. Like, I'm the protagonist of the world is something that has been thrown around more than once, but he just says, I'm the protagonist of my own life. Because his life is all he has, and it is up for him to decide what to do with it. He can't control other people. He's not in charge of anything but himself.
Exactly. He is in charge of his own life and what his decisions are. And that is like season 1, episode 1, and season 1, episode 12. You get to see what the goal is and how he achieves it. Season 2, episode 1, season 2, episode 13. You get to see what the goal is, how he achieves it. But season 2, episode 13 kind of introduces, as well as season 3, episode 1, the finale of season 3. The finale of the series, too.
Basically. Because, again, it's very good at, like, each season is good at picking up where the last season left off. Season 1 was him trying to figure out himself. Season 2 was him trying to figure out how to be himself. And season 3 is him trying to figure out who he's going to be.
And with a big broccoli tree now in the middle of Salt City, season 3 begins.
I will say for season 3, because like it is very important we're doing this first before the Crunchyroll Awards, because there's some stuff in there I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we talked about each season standing on its own. We said season 2 is the best. On its own, season 3 is probably the worst. Or honestly, yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah. This is once again.
But like the two caveats,
needle comb.
the two caveats of that is this is still a 9.5 out of 10 on my scale, and this season is what makes Mob Psycho as a whole a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, without this season, we do not get arguably one of the best finales ever in a series.
It's kind of the ultimate case of it doesn't work the best by itself, but as part of a larger picture, it is what this series needed.
Yeah, it's the perfect. Because I questioned after I finished season 2, what's next? what can they do next? And what they do next is so awesome, so vital to the story, making that kind of happen. So
I'll go
I
through
think
my.
it's.
I just
Go
want
ahead.
to say my only main criticism with the season as a whole. As I said with season one, and I didn't really get the chance to say with season two, the pacing is always super tight.
Yeah,
You never really get bored. It's always quick. You always get a lot, but not feeling like too much. Season three is the only season where the pacing isn't as tight. Like there are definitely points where you are kind of just in there waiting a bit for something to happen, and everything that
yeah. I,
happens
I I
is
felt that.
good and important, but you definitely feel the weight between everything.
I kind of felt that too, with like it's kind of like up and down. It's like okay. When it hits, it hits, but
Yeah,
it doesn't. It sometimes you do kind of have to sit there and be like, okay, what's going on here? What's next? But for a series to be what 37 episodes, you know, there's going to
yeah,
be an episode or two that you kind of forget about, or not forget about, but like
yeah.
as aren't as important as others. And I think a few of them are in this season, just because that's just the nature of the show. But it builds up the overall theme of Mob. I am myself, and how does it? What does
And
that work? How does that relate?
this part isn't really a criticism, but more just a notice. Visually, like animation and art wise, this season isn't as crazy or all over the place or bombastic as like the first two seasons.
I would say until like the last two episodes, because those are pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's not like the
And
season isn't good. It's just when you think about all the stuff this season does, it just doesn't really
yeah,
match up
yeah,
to the
yeah.
first two seasons.
And season 3, episode 6, right? Dimple fight. Yeah, Divine Tree, Dimple.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one has really good animation.
it is absolutely fantastic. But
That's actually one of my arguments for the awards. So we'll
yeah,
get to that in
so
the end.
I know realistically the animation isn't as it was before, is because the directors switched out. Like that, this was like a newer person doing it, but it kind of works for me thematic wise because it's like we spent the
we
first two
had, yeah,
we spent the first two seasons kind of being all over the place trying to figure out who we are. Now we know who we are. We have a sense of self and we are more stable. But where is that going to go?
yeah. It's like we had the need for all that. Now we don't really need that. So what's the growth from here? And so yeah, I don't have too many notes on season three's beginning. Um, Besides obviously the culture fest sets up everything. Um, the popular.
I, well,
I have some notes, but yeah,
the first two episodes really again show Mob as his own person.
yeah,
Like in
I
episode
agree.
one, you see him kind of just sitting down and telling Reagan, "I'm not going to be here forever. I don't know what I want to do, but I don't think it's going to be here." Which I don't know if he would have said in season one. Like he might have felt it,
He wouldn't have.
but I don't know if he would have said anything out loud about it.
No, I completely agree. We needed to see the growth so that he could say that to Reagan.
Yeah. And season two is really important because he's given a very trivial issue, which is the culture festival, the haunted house costuming. But you
Yeah,
see how different he is now. Like he's with a group of people he doesn't really know all that well, but you see him like talking, putting himself out
yeah,
there, trying to suggest that we do something more than just the bare minimum. And you see throughout the episode, he's trying to go to Reagan as he normally does for advice, but he ultimately figures something out on his own.
for himself. Yeah, he doesn't use Reagan. He just kind of helped, and then he's like, "Wait, I can do this," and he
And then
so
they do
yeah,
something.
yeah,
It's
it's
still
great.
a middle school haunted house prop, but it's something they did that they were proud of.
Yeah, and that's what the kind of theme of season 3 is. It's like you don't have to do something tremendous. You can just do something that's yours, but if you own it and say, "I did this,"
Yeah.
yay.
And it's like,
This is good.
and those two first episodes really illustrate what I'm talking about with this season. As the episodes themselves go, they're probably on the lower end. Like if I was ranking every single episode, those would definitely be in like the last quarter or so. But they are so necessary to what the series has been up to this point. It wouldn't make the series worse by taking them out, but the series wouldn't be as good as it is without them.
Exactly. And once again, we have to pick the nittiest of nitpicks just to try and find flaws with this series. And this is the easiest one to find. Is just maybe these episodes don't have the most they aren't the most necessity, right? It's like
Yeah.
I but that's not really too much of a negative because I'm so happy we have these episodes.
Like they make everything we saw before worth it.
And like we see the fruits of our labors from season 1 and season 2, and we see what will be the finale of season 3. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is it all connects. So it's kind of necessary. I'm gonna lean back to it's necessary, but it's like if I had to nitpick,
Yeah.
these are the easiest ones to nitpick at. Which leads us to Divine Tree.
I like the beginning of this. We see Mob. He has a problem he's never really had before. Like, or it's a problem he almost couldn't have had in season one. Or the
Mm-hmm.
whole he thinks he's going through like a harem arc or something where he thinks he's really popular with women. He doesn't know what to do. I really doubt season one Mob would be having this. Like he
Yeah,
might
and
think it, but he wouldn't genuinely like believe it or get carried away by it.
yeah, and this kind of like infatuates me. Oh, feels good, you know. Oh, look at me. I wear my best school uniform today.
The monkey.
The monkey and like the psycho helmet. Yeah, the psycho helmet, like kind of mentality, right? Yeah, and then I know like retrospect, it's not the last we see of Dimple, but man,
I mean,
that got
it is very effective, despite it being the third time they have killed off Dimple at that point.
me. Like I get it, but like it still hurts, man.
I
What
remember
a
it's like after season two finished, I read ahead in the manga, then I watched this, and I was waiting for that moment towards the end of everything before Dimple said Shige off, just saying, that's the first time he really got Mob. Like, you have been holding all this power back this entire time, and you went a bit over yourself thinking about girls. That's and just saying you're a real man.
you're you're a man. Like come on,
You're a man. You got this.
and
Just,
that like the scene where it's like you don't have to fight. That's one of those things that you need to hear. You need to hear when you need it. You need it, and it's so good.
and it's like
And
kind of what I said in season one with Dimple. He didn't character wise didn't really change that much, but you kind of see how the past two seasons have affected him. Because again, he's constantly talking about, oh, I'm gonna use Bob and take over the world, and then he
then
just
it's
kind of
like
doesn't do that for a while.
yeah, he's like I don't need to do this. I am satisfied with being Heckabot. You know, the little
Well, you don't see him saying that. You just he just falls into the background, and then this season, an opportunity presents itself. He takes it, but his heart just isn't really in it all that much anymore.
he's like I kind of don't want to do this.
It's like this isn't bad, but like I always imagined this being more.
And yeah, what a emotional sound off to what a great character. Then we get the transmission episodes with Winter Break and the car sick mob reminded me of a classic fairy tale scene. You know, yeah. But the New Year's episode was great. I mean, these are just kind of just small minor positives that
They're
unfortunately are kind of overshadowed by what is the finale
yeah.
of the series.
I will say the alien arc is kind of one of those things of like, I am very happy we got that because Mob's school life hasn't been the biggest focus, but this really kind of showed what Mob has accomplished through that. So
Yeah,
again, necessary.
yeah, it's absolutely necessary. I want these episodes in, but
Also,
this is that season where it's kind of like there's the highest highs and then just the good.
also a lot of the scenes in like that episode of them just walking through the forest are needlessly well animated. Like
Yeah, but
that
they
might
are
honestly
well
be.
animated.
It's weird to say
You'll
that might be the
you'll see
best look.
where
That might be the best looking episode in the entire series, and it is just them walking around.
yeah, it is though, and I mean it's one of my arguments for what we'll get to in the Crunchyroll Awards. So spoiler,
And
but
then
that leads us to the final arc.
question mark, question mark, question mark. Something we have been building up to since like early season one. That's like it's always teased, but we never really explored it all that much.
My God, what a wonderful way to end a series like this, of making the final villain our main like mob.
And it's something
The
that's
only person that's hurting yourself, and the only person that hurts you is you. You're the person that's holding you back. You're your own antagonist.
and it also kind of addresses the thing we've that's been brought up a couple of times of how Mob is kind of just the strongest. Like no one just flat out says it, but everyone just kind of feels it. And Mob season 2 episode 3, he asked the question of, if I were to go bad like some of these people I've come up against, would anyone be able to stop me?
And this is it. But there is one man who can stop everything
Yeah. And
when given enough tools.
and the thing is, everyone tries to stop him, but not in the way he was expecting. They just try to talk to him and get him to come back down because they care about him.
And that's it. He has built up this network by being himself that all the other previous super baddies didn't have. And it is so poetic to have all of the characters not fight mob. All they do is just grab civilians. So like, can we save as many people as possible? Ritia, Teru, they don't necessarily want to hurt mob. They just want to save people, and
So,
they're like, full.
Suzuki's the only one who tries to fight him, but it doesn't end the way you think
It
it
doesn't.
does.
Yeah. It,
Because again, he has grown due to his experiences with Mob,
with mob.
and like any other series would have just had him try to do the sacrifice play, big emotional moment, you might get a tear out. But he makes the mature decision based on his growth at that point.
And that's what every decision made is so well done, and it leads to just the best finale of
Yeah.
the only character to be able to actually come through to him, the most important character in Mob's life to this point, the best anime character ever, Reigen Arataka. With, we all say those moments when the first main theme song is playing. You usually expect that to be like the protagonist making his major development, but as I've stated multiple times to you previously, the original OP song is about Reigen the
Talking
entire
to
time.
Mob.
Exactly. This is like all of the if everyone is not special, then you can be who you want to be. And that's so important. So having Reigen, rips off his jacket, runs barefoot, sliding down the falling towers to confront Mob, just to hug him, just to tell him it's okay. You're feeling these feelings. You are such a wonderful young man. You've grown up to be such a great person. I'm a failure.
Yeah.
I'm a fraud. He admits his own failures. He's like, I'm a failure. I'm a fraud. I'm a horrible. And it's so awesome.
Yeah, it's like something I see some people say about that is like, oh, Reagan telling Mob is like what broke him out of it. And it's like it's the fact
No,
that
it
Reagan.
contributes.
It's the fact that Reagan did tell him. It was Mob knew. Like he's talking to Shigeo, kind of the other part of him he's trying to repress,
Yeah,
and they're kind of just saying
mhm.
like, we know who he is. We know he's a fraud. And the other side is that he's just using us. He does not care about us. But in that moment, Reagan does something that gives Reagan no benefit, and he is the fact that he would actually tell him is what kind of snaps him out of it for a
It's
moment.
yeah. It's like, wait a minute, why did he tell me that? And you have that's that question. It's like, wait, maybe he just cares. And then it's so when you see these moments of people just saying things or doing things that have no benefit to themselves whatsoever, just to help you, that's what matters, and that's what mattered to Mob. And in the end, that's what essentially will snap him out. It's the fact that he said it with no intention of helping himself, because he had said it multiple. I think he's talking to Serizawa about it. It's like, he's only concerned about Mob at this point. And so I think when he commands people to save, I think he even like tells like, "Oh, can you save as many people? I have to get Mob."
Yeah,
Because that's what he cares about. He's like, I care about Mob. Let me get Mob.
I like
And
yeah,
it's just and what an emotional ending. After that, they get their moment, and he finally builds it up. He goes to ask Sabumi.
and I love how she was throughout the entire series. Like you'd think she's just kind of like side character love interest, but you
So
kind of have to
uh,
you kind of have to
let's
learn.
talk let's talk about that from like the kind of to the people who haven't seen it. So there is a love interest that's introduced season one.
She's more of a crush than anything else. Like she
Yeah,
doesn't.
kind of a crush. It's middle school, so it's fair to say a crush. And from the start to the end, that's kind of like Mob's goal is he wants to build himself up so that he can have the courage to ask out Sabomi. And so the finale is literally he is struggling with asking her out.
Because like the two parts of him are kind of like struggling on what to do about it.
It's like I could just force her, or I could just genuinely be myself.
Well, it's like the conflict of the entire thing is him trying to figure out who is himself. Because you
Yeah,
have what he's trying to
like
make himself now versus the darker parts of himself that he's trying to hide from everything.
it's like should I is it okay to deal with this? Is it not okay?
Just
It's
kind of
like
being told they are all him, and it doesn't make him any worse of a person.
exactly, and like that's kind of Reagan's side because he's always like that like coin flip kind of guy where it's like we see both ends, but to Shigeo he's only showing the one end, and this is the first time he flips the coin. Is like no, I'm a failure. I'm both. I'm a good person, but I'm also a fraud. I'm this and that's what Shigeo needs to connect to. Is like, oh, I'm both. Like I can take Shigeo and I can take question mark question mark question mark, put it together,
And it is still
and
just me.
it's me. That's the most, and I am me, and that's what he realizes. But it's capped off perfectly by going to Sabomi, and Reagan and Dimple are like, yeah, you got this, champ. Comes back smiling. Oh, so how'd it go? Oh, she doesn't want to date right
And it's kind of well done leading up to it because they don't really talk throughout the entire series.
now.
Like
Exactly.
they
Like
know each
you
other,
see,
they reference each other, they're friendly towards each other, but they don't have an actual connection yet.
and it's wonderful because he kind of cries it out. Reagan's like, "Oh, it's okay, champ. We've all been there. You've all had a love interest that is just not going to work out, so you get upset, or you have a crush in middle school, and you're like, this isn't going to work, or whatever that might be. But it still hurts. So
Yeah,
they spend a little bit of time letting it hurt him.
and you
It's
just
like,
see
oh, this hurts.
he's just feeling it in the moment. It's like he's not
Yeah,
holding his feelings back. They're not taking over him and like consuming everything else. He's just letting it out. These feelings are
yeah, and
fine, and he's just expressing them.
and it ends with one of those nice. It's a wonderful song. It's great little music playing around. They're all having like a little celebration for the birthday, and I think the most important thing is the last scene. Like the last frames are it's Mob laughing,
Belly laughing, howling, like
just
not thinking about anything
like
else, just living
just
in that
Mob
moment.
laughing, living in the moment. He's come to terms with himself. To see that scene and compare it to like season one, episode one, Mob is so amazing because we watched that whole growth
And it feels
and
natural the entire way through.
it's so wonderful. Um, so overall, what is your overall opinion of the show? If you had to
It's
like shorten it up in conclusion.
it's just I could just say it's one of the best I've seen, but it's one of the most important things I've ever seen because I watched this in a very like bad time in my life. I was dealing with a lot of things Bob was dealing with, and watching the show's very affectionate approach to how to deal with that, how to grow, how to move forward was just it helped it. A big part of who I am now is affected by watching this show and taking away what it had to say.
Yeah, I would say once to yes, it is not only in my opinion one of the top five best ever anime, easily in my like top five best anime.
It's in my top five.
It's it's not in my top five favorite, but it is just objectively one of the top five best.
Mm-hmm.
It has, in my opinion, my favorite and the best anime character ever. Just Reagan is such a great character. One of the greatest protagonists ever in Shigeo. Great vocal production, great animation, great writing. There's nothing really I can say that's wrong with the series. It is one of those series that everyone who's an anime fan, whether you're a harem fan, a rom com fan, a shonen fan, a seinen fan, a mahou shoujo fan, these are it's one of those animes that like anyone can watch and enjoy. Like it's not. I wouldn't say it's a starter anime. Like if you want to introduce anime to a friend, you can use it. I think they need to watch a few to appreciate it more. But it is certainly some. If you have an anime friend, or if you are like, well, you consider yourself, a weeb or an otaku, and you really like anime, it's one that you have to watch, and there's no question about
Yeah. We just
it.
spent an
And
hour and a half talking about the series.
so I have so much more to say. NoTea has so much more to say, but we're gonna conclude there with Mob Psycho, and tell us what you think, please. Did you like Mob? Are you gonna watch Mob because of us? Did you hate Mob? If you did, why do you hate Mob? Why must I? Give me your address so I could send you some very interesting things.
All right. But enough about Mob. Let's talk about the Crunchyroll Awards. Okay.
Awesome.
The
So
2024.
Crunchyroll Anime Awards.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Do
go
you know when the cutoff
ahead.
date for this is? Because I do feel there's a couple stuff they missed.
I don't. When is the cutoff date?
It doesn't include free run, so I feel like it must have been like around October or March or something.
Sure. I didn't include Frieren in the discussion either,
Have you
but I
seen
did
free run?
include like 2 episodes. I really need to get on it because
You,
it's really good.
you should. I've been watching it in dub, and it's absolutely fantastic. But
Oh, I'll consider that.
let's see what they've put in front of us.
Yeah, I will admit I did add some nominees that weren't in uh for the specific category, so that we'll get to that when we get to. But let's start, of course, with anime of the year.
Loaded right off the bat. I look. I love Demon Slayer. I would go to bat for Demon Slayer any day of the week. I love it more than most people. It is not mid. Y'all are just dumb. This season did not need to be nominated for Best of the Year. Like,
Especially over what I consider to be anime of the year.
what anime would that be?
Mob Psycho.
On like I said, this I love season 3 with a passion. I don't know if I would have put it anime of the year compared to some of the other stuff we've had have up here.
I think personally, Mob Psycho season 3 is better than what is presented here. And my argument for that is I think it's just slightly better than Vinland Saga season 2 and just maybe on par with Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, but I
It's
like Mob more than I like Jujutsu Kaisen.
it's it's again the thing of Mob is the best finale. It is the contributes the most to the story out of any of these, but it doesn't stand as well on its own compared to some of the rest of this stuff.
Mm,
Like
I'm still not sure about that. I
like
think Mob
Vinland.
season 3 is better than these.
I could see that argument for most of them except for Vinland season 2. Vinland season 2, it not only tells a complete story, it works completely well by itself. It is also just a spiritual journey that deconstructs everything we saw in season 1, transforms it into something new, and prepares us to go into the future. It does everything right. It has changed my life multiple times and in multiple ways.
I, it is probably so far my favorite like parts of Vinland Saga are from season 2. Um, the overall journey of everyone is great. I can't give Vinland Saga. It is probably my second pick. Honestly, it's like if I had to choose from those nominees and not add in Mob Psycho, it's 100% Vinland Saga season 2.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
once again, Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 was great. It was phenomenal.
yeah. It's like Bochi the Rock is also a very big contender for that.
If I'm being honest,
Oh,
as an overall series, Bocchi the Rock isn't my like favorite. I think it has two, 3 episodes that are 11 out of 10 are flawless. But other than that, I think the overall series is just good. And it's a music genre. I've seen a lot of musical anime that do a lot of the same themes. And I don't want to bash it, so we'll get to that if we get to a further discussion on it. but Bocchi the Rock for me isn't in the same caliber as Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, um,
Well,
Chainsaw Man.
the thing I'm thinking about with Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 is like, depending on the cutoff date, are they talking about the first arc or are they talking about Shibuya?
I'm gonna count Shibuya.
That's like, yeah, but it's like, considering some of the stuff they didn't include on here, it would be safe to assume that it is not talking about Shibuya.
Yeah, but as you can see, I put in my own category. I put in Mob Psycho, so
Yeah.
I'm not gonna follow just them. I'm
Yeah.
saying so
Chainsaw Man,
maybe
I know some people were kind of on the Chainsaw Man anime. I really liked it. I am very sad that director is not coming back for the second half of it.
yeah, that kind of shocked. But I get it. But at the same
I
time, I was a little
get it,
surprised.
but it's like,
It's like I would have loved to see what he could have done with
genuine,
you know
like,
some of the
genuinely,
better episodes. Yeah.
genuinely, give that guy the material for it. It would have just been some of the best stuff ever. But I, we'll see who they get for the second half.
Yeah, I think we'll still be in good hands. As you can see with Vinland Saga and Jujutsu Kaisen, Mappa's handling things pretty well.
You've had to hear what was going on with Mappa Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, right?
No, what happened? Wait, I actually haven't missed this. What's going on?
Okay, so long story short, they did Jujutsu Kaisen. That was already kind of a rush to get out. They were supposed to immediately go to season 2 Jujutsu Kaisen, give them a couple years to work on it. Then they suddenly got handed the rights to Chainsaw Man, so all those people immediately went to work on that, and then with like less than half the scheduled time, did season 2.
And it still looks amazing, and it's still well done.
Yes, but you also have multiple people talking about how it was one of the most demoralizing, worst experiences of their life, and they'd never want to go through something like that again.
Show me a happy animator, and I'll show you $1 million.
$1 million that those animators aren't seeing.
Yeah, they will unfortunately never see.
Yeah. Then look, again, I love Demon Slayer. I'm so excited to get more of it. This did not need to get nominated.
No, I think what is it? Not next season, but the subsequent season after the next season is going to be probably what the best that we have to offer for Demon Slayer will be.
Probably, yeah.
Right. I'm trying to time it in the manga. Right? I think so.
Yeah, well, we have basically this small mini arc,
and then
final season, which
come on.
And then I can't say much about Oshinoko. I've read part of the manga and I watched the first episode. It's
Oshinoko has that Attack on Titan effect where it's so big, it's so popular that a lot of people are gonna like excuse a lot of its flaws.
Yeah.
It's not anime of the year. It is a very solid show, but it's not anime of the year.
I would need to have seen more of it to really give my take on that. From the stuff I've heard of like what it deals with and explores, I think it could do a lot. I just don't like some parts of it.
Yeah.
Now,
it explores a lot, it does well, but for me, this whole category, if I'm to pick between just the nominees, this whole category comes down to really Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 and Vinland Saga season 2.
I would still pick Vinland over Jujutsu.
I still pick Vinland. I pick Vinland.
Yeah. Now, best continuing series, we have. I still haven't watched the final episode of Attack on Titan.
Really? I think it's adapted pretty well. I think it's from the manga to the anime. It's a great adaptation. Everything is handled kind of point by point, just how Isayama would have liked it.
Yeah, it's very funny because like I was one of the few defenders of the ending when it first came out. Over time, I really hate that ending. I hate it so much. Like,
I think I'm still on the side of like. I think Attack on Titan is well past its peak at this point for the ending.
It's like,
but it's kind of
I think
a poor man's version of Mob.
Yeah, I think we can both agree on it. A lot of people say the series was basically perfect until that final chapter, and we both agreed it had a lot of problems before that final chapter.
Yeah, there were many. I mean, I have an Attack on Titan tattoo, so like, I love the series, but at the same time, I recognize it has a lot of flaws.
Yeah, it's thematically all over the place, and the ending does not help with any of that. But this is talking
like
about.
I said, I'm a fan of the ending.
Yeah, this is talking about the first special, which is
Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan, the final season, the final chapter is part 1.
Which is, once again, kind of, like I said, one of the most hyped anime of all time to have such a drawn, but it's good. It's not the best
Yeah.
continuing series.
Then
That
there
I'm just
was
gonna discredit it right there. It's not.
then there was Swordsman's Village, which again I liked it. It's going to be better on a binge through than just it by itself.
Yeah. What if you're watching it like if you go from entertainment arc to Swordsman Village, like, bah, yes, absolutely. But if it's like episode by episode,
It's
I didn't need to watch this like I needed to watch entertainment
yeah,
arc, right?
this is definitely was worsely paced than the stuff before. Like, which I didn't experience through the manga because I just kind of read it straight through.
Yeah, me
I
too.
so I imagine when I'm going back when the series is finished and binging through everything, I'm not gonna have too many complaints about this.
It's not like I have too many complaints, but this is like we're talking about like who wins the award, so
Yeah.
it doesn't qualify.
Yeah. Then Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, if we are talking about, I will say this has the best improvement over last season because first
It
season
does.
is really good. It has some problems. The animation is all right at times, but like it's good animation, but it's not creative. It doesn't leave too much of an impression. And then this one just leapfrogs completely over that.
Yeah. So actually, this is kind of funny. At the release of Jujutsu Kaisen season 2, like the second half, Shibuya arc, I went to Universal Studios Japan, and they have like the Jujutsu Kaisen ride, and so I went to it, and it's pretty interesting, but um, it kind of connects to the story a little bit. But that's just a side point. Great ride, or 3D experience. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so if we're talking about just continuing series, as in like continuing on the story, this would be a lot closer than just Anime of the Year next to Finland, but One Piece. What
Yeah,
the
putting One Piece in best continuing series in the year 2023 is unfair to every other anime. When I said previously that there are 3 scenes in anime and manga that I think are the greatest ever, one of them hasn't been animated yet. One of them we just talked about with Mob Psycho, and this one being Gear 5th.
like
In the year Gear 5th released. Like, come on. Unfair.
it's like we had some of the best episodes, best fights. It concluded a nearly 5-year long arc in the anime. We also got what is personally my favorite opening in all of One Piece, which is opening 25.
It's don't make me choose. Don't make me choose.
Choose right now.
They're so good. It's so good. I'm not even gonna wait. My pick for best continuing series is One Piece. My favorite arc, my favorite scene, covered wonderful episodes, wonderful animation. An episode that came out on my birthday that was phenomenal, Sanji versus Queen.
Yeah.
An episode, Zoro versus King.
I wouldn't pick One Piece just because it's what we've been experiencing a lot with the anime, which is like unbelievably high highs, but the stuff in between that is still just typical One Piece anime.
Yeah, so. But the highs for me this year were just too
high. Highs of 2023 One Piece anime clears everything else, except for maybe Vinland.
Yeah, like I said, in the best anime of the year, Vinland is the only contender for me for anime of the year that isn't like my own nomination. In here, it's the closest to One Piece, but I can't put it over One Piece. Yeah. I can't.
And then Spy Family. We need to do a Spy Family episode because I have a lot to talk about with this series.
It's more popular than it is good.
Yeah. Well, it's not that this part was bad.
It's not just bad.
It kind of falls into a trap that you really get for most of the series, which is just like, you know how we were talking about like a character or a relationship makes a decision, and then it doesn't affect anything. This series is one of the biggest offenders of that.
Yeah,
because it's like a lot happens. A lot happens in part 1 of this season, but then this part, it's like we're just kind of doing stuff. We don't really change. Nothing moves forward. We just kind of lose the plot.
When you look at all of the nominees here, right, and you see Spy Family season, was it 1 or 2? It is the weakest.
Definitely.
Of all of these, not even really close, unfortunately.
Yeah. This one is closer considering the category of it, but Vinland Saga Season 2 might still be mine because it completely redefines the entire story and makes it so much more interesting going forward.
I haven't read the manga, I'm only caught up to the anime, so I don't really know too much. But if there is something for me that is like next to One Piece, it would be the Vinland Saga season 2, because it is a great continuation of so much. It enhances the series. It improves the series. It improves all the characters. Thorfinn is now like in my top like 20, maybe top 15 favorite characters.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
No, for
So
best new
best
series.
new series. Best new series.
This one is more difficult for me because I have read the manga for some of these, but I've not watched the anime, so I can't say too much.
I I've seen the anime for all these except for Heavenly Delusion, which I'm
I've
gonna
heard
be
so much
honest,
hype
I
behind that
don't
one.
know.
I need to watch it.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it, so it's gonna be something that I will check out here in the near future.
I'm told it is very the Last of Us kind of esque.
Damn, I'm gonna fall for that one.
But
You give me a post-apocalyptic world, I'll give you a 10 out of 10. But yeah, so we have the nominees: Bocchi the Rock. Um, Great series, but like I said, I think it has very high highs, and overall is just the rest of the episodes are good. So I'd consider that great. I'm
I
pretty lenient on roller coaster series for me. Like I usually give them the higher rating than I give them the lower.
this I'm a lot more consistent with the series than you are. Like it has had a phenomenal high highs, but I like the base stuff more than you do probably. Honestly, this
Probably.
might be my pick for best new series. I love Chainsaw Man, but it is part of a story which kind of affects things for me, and it doesn't do everything phenomenally well.
I think for me, I like the characters of Boach the Rock more than I like the story. But I'm gonna catch so much blame for this. I I think the worst part of Bochi the Rock is Bochi. That's my opinion. I'm allowed to take all the pain that comes with it, but I I have seen a lot of series that do this, and I don't know why it doesn't work with me. I think when she has the good moments, like season 2, episode 6, where she plays the guitar solo or the finale, I think those moments are great. But I think the show means more to me from the other characters. And
Uh,
I know I recognize Bochi's vital to the series. Like it is called Bochi the Rock, and I still think the series is great overall. But in my opinion, I'm not the biggest fan of the main character Bochi.
well, here's my opinion on Bochi. She's an absolute loser, and she's pathetic, and I kind of love her for it.
Yeah, the ideas and the challenges that she faces are great, but I think there's a lot of scenes in some of the other episodes where I just can't really vibe with all the Bochiisms. I never found them too funny. There are some that are just hilarious, like the one where she just like pops. That's so funny. That is genuine comedy gold. But so if you lead me to believe, I do not think Bochi the Rock is the best new series.
Well, you could just be wrong about that.
I will stand with my
Yeah,
my
yeah.
as my statement.
This is one I can't say all too much about because I just haven't seen most of these. The
Yeah,
Hell's Paradise manga is pretty cool. I don't know how the anime is,
uh,
but
anime is about what you would expect compared to the manga. From what I've heard, I actually haven't read the manga. I just watched the anime. Pretty good. It's not my genre by any means.
mm,
It's like I've, you know, for other people it might be a much higher ranked series, but for me, you know what is my genre?
what?
Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead.
Read the manga for that one. Absolutely love it.
The anime is so good. It takes a lot of what the manga does, and it just enhances it so much, adds it to the nth degree.
Hmm.
I will admit though, the last, well, I don't think it counts the last 3 episodes. So, haha, it doesn't count the last 3 episodes that happened in December. So
I
those
thought we
ones
weren't
kind
doing
of.
that.
Well, I'm picking and choosing my battles. And,
If we are doing by that rule, we are not counting Shibuya in Jujutsu Kaisen, which instantly takes it out of the running for a lot of stuff.
yeah, that will drop it for a lot of things, unfortunately. If we do that, if we do or don't, I don't care. Regardless, Zom 100 is my pick for best new series.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I Comedy is great. Um, and I'll get into it. Wins a few other categories for me too. No surprise. Honestly, it's in my top 5 favorite series, manga and anime.
Hmm. Best film. I have seen two of these.
I have seen 2 of these.
Black Clover, Sword of the Wizard King does not belong on here, but my god, this is a fun watch.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it kind of
I have to get
gives
back
a
on the Black Clover. Right?
it kind of gives the vibe of like a sort of like kind of like a 2000s 2010s anime film, which is just a non-canon fun shonen story. Like, hey, the characters just randomly find some super powerful dude who apparently existed at some point.
Yeah.
Fight. Like,
Haven't seen that before.
it's like it's fun.
But every time it's done is good.
It's fun. I'm glad we had this. As a big Black Clover fan myself, it's been a while since the anime ended. Like, it has been like 4 or 5 years at this point. So it's ended at this point. So this was just a very nice thing to have. I enjoyed myself. I wouldn't have recommended it for this.
Yeah, honestly, anime film. This past year, I watched 2. So I watched Kaguya-sama, the movie.
Yep.
It's not as good as the series, but it's still really good.
Wait, hold up. This is probably my favorite section of Kaguya. Like, for me, the series peaks here.
Oh, really? I think it has already peaked. I think season 3, the finale, is where it peaks.
It's kind of a thing of like, had I just watched up to season 3, I would have agreed with you. But this, what it does to that inherently just makes it much more interesting and fascinating.
It adds so much to it. Don't get me wrong. But
Akasaka's biggest strength as a writer is his ability to deconstruct and analyze his characters, and that is done. It is not done anywhere better except in this.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Absolutely, the character analysis and kind of the characters in the movie is great. But don't get me wrong, it's my pick for best movie. I just don't think it's as good as like the whole series. That was just a personal take, but yeah, it is best movie.
Yeah. Then
the only other movie I saw this year was Suzume.
I still need to watch that.
It's good. Don't have too much to add about it. It was good. That's about maybe almost great, like maybe like a 8, 6, 7.5 kind of category, in my opinion. And my ratings are a little bit higher than most. So, but it doesn't beat Kaguya for me. I think Kaguya is the clear winner.
I need to watch Blue Giant because apparently, like I said earlier, the person who directed the first 2 seasons of Mob Psycho went to do something else. This is what he did.
Well, I trust him. Yeah. Or them.
It's also about jazz, and I love jazz, so I'm interested to see what that would do.
Ah, yeah, that might be interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
And
I've been meaning to watch the first Slam Dunk movie, but
I hear it's honestly, really good.
I just kind of forgot that it was out.
I just
like our friend saw it, and then I was like, oh yeah, I should go watch it, and then it just like, oh, I forgot.
Best original. I have seen one of these.
I have seen one of these. Have we seen the same?
I don't think so.
Which one did you watch?
Mobile Suit Gundam.
Oh, I watched Birdie Wing.
No. Literally, I just finished watching this series today. I just spent 6 hours in my bed binging the second half of the season.
Well, was it good? Would you say it's your vote?
It would take a lot for anything else to beat this.
Oh, okay.
Like,
well,
first
yeah,
Gundam
I'll have
series,
to watch it then.
It is very phenomenally done. It is also extremely gay. Like,
Oh yeah, there we go.
I knew there was like a main sapphic couple, but I was surprised just how gay the series got at times. And Birdie Wing, isn't that like mafia stunt golf or something?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. That's why I wanted to watch it. So there's a lot of different like kind of. It's not just a typical golf anime. It's kind of like Kuroko's basketball, where it's like it's not just a basketball anime. There's so much more that plays into it, and so it was interesting. Now, I don't feel comfortable saying it's the best original anime if I haven't seen the rest of the nominees or the rest of the original anime that came out this year. But it was pretty good. So if I had to choose, I only have one comfortable. I only have one that I've seen, so I have to choose it. So
Yeah.
I'll choose it. But I still would I recommend it? Yeah, give it a shot.
If
Probably
you're,
not as good as Gundam, but yeah, probably a good shot.
it's some nice weird shit.
Yeah,
Although
get into something that you haven't seen before.
I
That's what
feel
we're
like
here for.
I need to watch Akiba Maid War because I just saw some of the trailers for that when it came out, and I am just wondering what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, I didn't know it existed until the Crunchyroll Anime Awards,
It's just
and it looks like a trip.
it's a it's a series of just a maids just singing and shooting each other dead, and I'm like oddly
I need
curious
that in
about
my life.
this.
Yeah, I need that in my life right now. All right, next we have best animation.
The
It,
I like the
tough one.
animation in this. It wasn't my favorite. It was clear what they were given such a tall task to do, and they did the best they could. That's all I can really say about it.
Yeah. I unfortunately this is kind of crazy when you look at it. You see like how many Mappa animation, like how many of these are Mappa animated. Like
Yeah,
they are just like the factory for these stinking awards. But at this point, I like I like the Chainsaw Man animation. A lot of people don't, but I kind of did like it.
it
It was
the focus
very
wasn't.
interesting.
I like where the focus was because this was very character animated driven. Like there was a lot of stuff done on the small movements, the like
Mm-hmm.
movements, the motions, the expressions, just like the small little things people do with each other. I love the framing of everything. When he goes animated, it just looks phenomenal. Like the Sakuga is
Yeah,
on another level.
yeah. It so I think it's really good. I don't particularly think, especially compared to Entertainment District, that um, this animation for from Ufotable for Kimetsu no Yaiba was.
It
I don't think it's animation best animation. I don't.
I wouldn't say that either, but I will say this for the animation in Swordsmith Village. It feels like they're focusing a lot more on the CG this season. Like if you
I think they're
notice,
trying to improve it and get ready for what is to
yeah,
come.
because
Right?
if you looked at like the backgrounds, some of the
Yeah.
camera angles, some of the effects you're doing on the breathing styles, there was a lot more focus on that than what they normally did. Which,
Yeah.
if they are just taking like a step back to improve it before they get to the final arc, I would be fine with that.
Yeah. I'm fine with that if that's what
Yeah,
they're doing,
like
but
this
we'll
legit
see.
does have some of just the best anime moments in the entire series.
Yeah, it's really well. It's still high class. Like the animation this year is just probably some of the best we've ever seen, just in general, overall.
Yeah, but
Uh,
Jujutsu
tough one.
Kaisen season
Jujutsu
two,
Kaisen season two. Tough one. Tough one.
it is again leagues better than season one.
They really kind of
Yeah,
settled down with it. Had so much more energy. You could see each kind of frame is even a little bit more detailed than what we got previously. Backgrounds look better. Characters move better.
it's also a lot more just creative with a lot of stuff. Like a lot of the shots and angles and
Yeah.
stuff like that in season one were basic. They were good, but they were just kind of basic. This one was just such a feast to look at and see what they were trying to do.
Yeah, you got to see a lot of different decision making from I think directing. We'll get to that, but
Yeah,
I think the directing for the
the
season was
season was a lot more
fantastic.
stylized than season one.
Absolutely, and it separated itself as like that dynamic series that I'm still kind of on the fence on Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know where it stands for me right now, but the direction it's going is improving.
It's
My opinion of
it's
it.
not one of my favorite series, but it's one of my favorites to talk about because there's just so much to talk about with it.
Yeah, it's well handled. And after Jujutsu Kaisen season two is of course Mob Psycho season three.
I don't think I'd pick this one for best animation.
Oh, I did.
It's like
Spoiler alert, I did.
like I said, some absolutely phenomenal moments, things I'm absolutely just amazed by, but consistently I don't know if it stacks up.
So I'm gonna have a caveat here. I do think overall, even if I don't include this, it's still the best season. But I'm including the opening sequences for animation.
I mean, there's a literally entire category for openings. You could just save it for that.
I'm still I have and I will, but I am just saying. But yeah, Mob Psycho, fantastic animation, Studio Bones. I think it's the best of the year.
Hmm,
That's my vote.
yeah. And then Trigun. I haven't seen this one, so I can't say too much about it.
The animation's great. I think it's not what I think of when I think of the new Trigun Stampede, but the animation is great.
Yeah.
It's on the like all of these are like almost the same level. Like it is like personal preferences to pick between these.
Yeah, I think for this one I would pick Chainsaw Man just because it scratches a very particular itch. I don't think another series has really scratched as well as that one.
Yeah, it's certainly unique. We don't see anime that look like Chainsaw Man often, if not at all. And in my opinion, it's probably the second or the third. I think it's up there with Jujutsu as like animation, but I didn't pick Jujutsu because I think it's more of a direction standpoint, and
Yeah.
that's a different category.
Yeah,
So
if we're looking at
we'll
the
get to
if we're looking at the animation itself, this is on par with season one for the most part, but just how they handle it and how they approach it is really what separates it.
exactly. So that's why I talked myself out of that and just put Mob and Chainsaw Man in the category, and it was just personal preference. I like Mob a little bit, a lot. Okay, I like Mob a lot more than I like Chainsaw Man, so I picked Mob.
Okay then. Best character design. I think I'd also
This
give
one
this
was
one to
tough.
Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, this one was really tough. So Chainsaw Man, like we were talking about before, the kind of the focus of the animation is on the character.
Yeah.
And when we do get to see them, they're great. But so I agree with you. I think Chainsaw Man is the best. When you really think about it, I mean, you know, Pochita is super recognizable. Denji, who's just really a blonde white male, is still really recognizable. Like we know what he looks like.
And the characters
And
all loan themselves very well for both the casual scenes and also the scenes when things get really intense. Everything
yeah.
is constantly looks good. So
And I mean, that's just talking about characters. If we talk about like all of the different like powers they use, with like combined with the characters, like the actual Chainsaw Devil, or like the easiest way how I rate character design is if I go to a convention, right? Am I gonna see these guys cosplay? And yes, you always see these cosplayers.
mm-hmm.
It's easy and it's recognizable and it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, best character design for me is Chainsaw Man. But I will say, from a popularity standpoint, Oshinoko, especially living in Japan, that's up there too. The
it
character designs in Oshinoko are fantastic.
it does a lot right. Even if I haven't seen too much of it, it does a lot of things right. And again, if we're talking about improvements, the character designs in season two, Jujutsu Kaisen, way better than season one.
Way better. But I think this is just like as a whole. So I will give it to Chainsaw Man. I'm pretty. This one was one of the more confident ones for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see where each of them kind of fit into the category.
Yeah. Best director. This one is going to be tough.
This one was a little tough for me, but I kind of when I was doing the animation one, I convinced myself when I was making my list. So, who do you have? Who's
my top three picks? It really have to depend on the day. Is Keiichiro Saito from Bocchi, Ryu Nakamaya from Chainsaw Man, and Shota Goshizono from Chainsaw Season 2. They all bring something so unique to their own series that it's really hard to really decide.
So we have the same top three. Yeah. Let's see if we have the same top one. I personally picked Shoto Gohazono. What he brings to season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen is such an elevation.
Yeah.
Especially considering there was a director switch.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see the difference, and this is not to trash season 1, but season 2 is an outclass of season 1.
It definitely is.
As far as directing,
I am torn between Saito and Nakayama because both of those in different ways scratch different parts of my brain. The Chainsaw Man kind of the ultra realism of everything is so intense, and just the absolute cookie zaniness of Bocchi the Rock.
Yeah, both of the direct, like I said, those are my top three. I think we have the same top three.
I think
I would rank it is I would say it's Gosho Zono, then Saito, then Nakayama. But like Nakayama and Saito are like kind of.
It would really have to depend on the day for me, just like going back and forth. Best cinematography, I have to give this one to Chainsaw Man. Like,
oh, I added in my own category, I think. Yeah, I added in my own one.
Oh, which one?
Well, first, so from this kind of from these nominees, I would give it actually. I think I'd give it to Demon Slayer.
Hmm.
I like we were saying, they're kind of working with more of the backgrounds, the CGI. I think that kind of alleviated for a lot of interesting um, cinematic moments. But I'm giving it to Zom 100.
Hmm.
This I think that it's such an elevation over the original series, the manga, and you build such a wonderful environment for the characters. It looks great. It's recognizable. I think it's the cinematography, the choices they make to put each character in what place and what design where is great. And
Yeah.
I think Zom 100 got sniped here. They should be in there. If I had to choose from the list, I am going to give it to Demon Slayer, but yeah.
It's like for me with Chainsaw Man, it's really lives up to that saying of every frame is a painting. Every
And it
shot,
is.
it's like it is hard to fully describe. Just everything just feels so intentional. Everything has like a lot of weight to it. Everything feels natural when it's supposed to, but also very unnerving when it doesn't. Like,
And it works so well. It ties in well with the animation. It's beautiful. Um,
I know a lot of people
direct,
were complaining that it doesn't resemble Fujimoto's paneling style all too much, but I love the approach that they took for it. Like,
I think it works. I genuinely think it works. And like Fujimoto is one of my favorite mangakas ever. But this is just great.
yeah,
It works so well.
best art
Best
direction.
best art direction.
I might have to give this one to Jujutsu Kaisen.
I see. I I gave best director to Jujutsu Kaisen, right? I gave it to Ghost of Tsushima, but I actually have to give this to Oshinoko.
Hmm.
They made such a marketable just look. Like kids, adults, everyone is into Oshinoko. Especially, maybe it's because I live in Japan and I see all of the idols everywhere I go. I'm reminded of the art every day. I can't go to the freaking convenience store without seeing Oshinoko.
Hmm.
So maybe it's just I'm indoctrinated into the Oshinoko community, but I do think the art direction is fantastic in Oshinoko,
Yeah,
especially when you see them on stage and when you see all the different tackling they do with different art styles. I think it's great.
from what I've seen, it looks really good, but it just something about Jujutsu Kaisen, like the way it presents anything, kind of mix and matches different things. It is just phenomenally well done.
Yeah. And once again, since I gave Jujutsu Kaisen Best Director kind of definitively, that it lowered it in the other categories like cinematography and
Mm,
in this case art direction, just because I think it's more of a director's choice than I do an art direction.
yeah. Best romance. This is another thing of like I've read the manga for a lot of these, so that
This is kind of like Best Original. I don't know most of these.
okay. I will say based on what I have read, Insomniacs After School wins it. It is absolutely phenomenal. I wouldn't put Skip and Loafer in best romance. It wins in another category, just not this one. Tomo-chan as a girl is fun, kind of it. Like then My Happy Marriage is really good, probably second place for this category. Uh, Yamada-kun, I did not get into at all. That's some people might come after my head for that, but and
Hey,
then
we all have those series.
yeah, I watched season one of Horimiya. I haven't felt any desire to watch this, so I'm sure it's good at times.
So that's the only one I saw. The only one I've seen from these lists are Horimiya, and it was fine. But the best romance of the year, and I'm counting it for this. If I had to choose, I've only seen Horimiya, so I have to choose Horimiya from these nominees. But um, if I didn't have to choose, there's a specific one which might not count, but I'm counting it for this sake. Is the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You, because it came out in 2023 on the My Anime List category. So I'm just gonna count it, like the fall season.
One of these days we're going to talk about that show, and a lot of words are going to be exchanged.
So that's my pick for best romance. But if I had to choose between these, I will take Horimiya.
I'm Insomniacs After School all the way. I love the series.
I'll have to check it out. A lot of these I have to check out.
Best comedy.
So this is tough. The comedies were great this year.
Honestly, yeah.
I laughed a lot at a bunch of different anime this
Yeah.
year.
Uh, so biggest controversial opinion. I love the manga for Mashal. The anime didn't sell me all that much.
Oh, I stopped watching it. It's not my favorite. I can't do it.
Like,
I think it's because it just reminds me of Harry Potter.
kinda. That's definitely the vibe they're going for. It's just the anime very much lacks an energy to it that the manga had that made everything a lot funnier. Like, it still looked
I
good.
haven't read the manga.
Like, the manga's pretty good.
Hmm.
I tried watching Yurusei Yatsura, but it is very obvious that this series was written in the 60s.
It, I watched it as a kid, so I kind of have like too much of a nostalgic connection to it. So whenever I watch it, I'm like, yeah, I like this still. So I don't usually laugh at it too much. I don't find it as more of a comedy as it is just like a rom com. But so for me, from these particular nominees, there's only really two that stand out. It's Bocchi the Rock and Zom 100.
Yeah. I will say, if we're talking just on comedy, on how much these made me laugh, I would have to pick Bochi.
Yeah, if we're just talking just comedy, it's Bocchi the Rock, and it's not really even close
Yeah.
because I laughed at a lot of Zom 100, but I vibe with Zom 100 more as like a serious series that tackles a lot of interesting themes
Yeah.
than I do a comedy. And Bocchi the Rock for most of the series is a comedy. Like a lot of the series is funny. Now, if I had to choose from not these nominees and my own pick,
Oh, God.
I am once again gonna go with the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You
I would
because
not nominate that series.
it is so funny.
It can be funny. It could also be unbelievably painful and pain
But
inducing.
that's what's funny about it.
Not really.
But if I had to choose from these categories, absolutely, both
Yeah.
should.
Best action.
I can't believe they put this in here. This is unfair.
It's difficult. I
Yeah.
feel like a broken
So,
record. I feel like a broken record. I might just pick Jujutsu Kaisen again. Because
oh really?
if we're going just based off the action, it's like how it works
Yeah,
as an
but
action series and using the action to kind of
uh,
communicate the story.
I still just this is no contest for me. This is One Piece. The action, like this year, the action was just too high.
Yeah. It's
Like every fight this year was wonderfully animated, connected to the story so well, and was just crazy.
okay. If we are just going off the action, which will select the best parts of the One Piece anime, then I will pick One Piece.
Oh, that's the thing. Like this category is just best action. So that's why it's no contest to me.
Yeah.
If that's what I'm considering, no contest. Wano has some of my favorite fights and my favorite. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd love to see what they're doing.
I have not. I have
But
not. I
I'm
have
not
not
gonna
watched.
trash Jujutsu Kaisen. So
I have
I'll
not
give it
watched
to
Thousand Year Blood War, so I read the manga. That it was so long in the manga. Like it was over 200 chapters. It did not need to be 200 chapters. That's longer than
maybe
Wano.
maybe they're reducing it.
I think we're already at like almost. I think the next core is gonna have like put us in like 70 episodes of it or something. I don't know. Best fantasy. Not the strongest list, if I'm gonna be
I
frank.
was gonna say this is probably the weakest nominee list, right?
Yeah. Like,
And if this was Ranking of Kings season 1, holy crap, it clears.
yeah. I haven't seen season 2.
It's 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 a downfall. Unfortunately, it is a downfall from what is such a wonderful series.
Isn't it just like a bunch of side stories or something?
Yeah, and it's side stories that they just don't do as well as what was such a challenging, wonderful series, and it makes me feel a little sad because I wanted to see more, but I'm not getting the more I wanted. So maybe I should have just been okay with what I
Yeah. I
had. Like I said, Hell's Paradise isn't something too special, and I didn't vibe with Mashal, so those two are kind of out for me.
mm, I am not watching Mushoku Tensei. Like,
So many people like it. I might give it a shot one of these days, but I don't
it's
know.
like
It just doesn't seem
okay.
like my vibe.
My problem with Mushoku Tensei is I hear it does a lot of stuff, pretty well. I'll probably enjoy those a fair amount, but there's gonna be elements of it that are gonna bother me endlessly, and I'm not gonna be able to enjoy anything else. And then I'm going to get on this podcast, tell people I can't enjoy it because of that, and people are going to get upset at me because I can't look past those aspects. Oh, you get annoyed that the main character is a pedophile? Yes, it's gonna annoy me.
Yes, wouldn't that annoy you? Like, you don't get annoyed that the main character is a pedophile? Like, this isn't Johnny Bravo where that's supposed to be funny. Like, this is, you know, but,
So
yeah, I guess so because of all that, and I haven't seen Make Us Bride season 2,
I've
so
watched
because
any
of
of it.
that, yeah,
Is
I'm gonna.
is this
I
gonna
think
be?
season 1's good. It's Demon Slayer for me.
But this feels more like a default option.
Well, you could be the best team in the worst division and still make the playoffs. So, good job, Demon Slayer.
Fair enough.
You're doing better than every other fantasy
Yeah.
for now.
Genuinely, if they bring their A game to the final season, I am campaigning for that the entire way through.
Oh, it might be anime of the year. Whatever comes out that I mean, unfortunately, it might come out the same year as yeah, the final season of Kimetsu no Yaiba might come out at the same time as JoJo Part 7,
If
which
they
would
do it.
really, if they do it, which would really hurt Demon Slayer, but it would make that year, that would be like the best year of anime ever.
I mean,
Could you imagine?
imagine? Remember 2021? We had a Attack on Titan season 4 part 2 and Entertainment Village coming out the same fucking day.
Village. And we're like, oh, this is Sunday.
And also worked on Sundays because Shonen Jump releases their chapters on that day. So I literally wake up, read Shonen Jump, watch Demon Slayer, watch Attack on Titan.
What a day! What a day! But, yeah. So if that happens, I will feel bad for Demon Slayer because it does not deserve to release the same year as Part 7 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It deserves to have its own moment. Hopefully they'll like have spring and fall.
Yeah.
JoJo usually releases in December, and so does Demon Slayer.
So I consider the Mugen Train arc and Entertainment Village season 2. If they bring the same energy to season 2 to the final arc, Demon Slayer will enter my top 10 anime of all time.
It could easily. For me, it's from the manga standpoint, it's like top 20, but certainly it could push if it
like it's currently sitting in my top 15 with the manga and the anime we got so far. If they adapt that final part of the manga as well as they have done before, top 10 easy.
Yeah, so I fear for it. I hope it releases before Part 7 or after. Me being the more personal JoJo fan, so I hope Part 7 releases sooner so I can get it finally, just so we can get to Part 8. But
yeah. Best drama. These are all very different series from each other.
Yeah, some of these are pushing the category drama. When I think of drama, I think of like Violet Evergarden, right? Something that's like really tries to tackle emotions. Some of these do, but Attack on Titan, no.
It's like you have the political genocide drama, you have the post-apocalypse drama, Viking drama, feudal Japan drama, idol drama, and immortal drama.
So I think for me, the only one that technically qualifies as like a drama, there's two of them actually. Well, actually, I haven't seen My Happy Marriage, so I will discredit
My Happy Marriage. If we're thinking about the typical qualifications for a drama, this is the closest to it.
All right, so there are three. So like Oshinoko, My Happy Marriage, and To Your Eternity is probably the closest to an actual drama category. But that being said, I see best drama, and I see Vinland Saga season 2. So
yeah,
it's over. It's over.
Yeah, like
it's over.
I'm not questioning you on that one.
Yeah, I don't think it was too hard for me. Like I said, I haven't seen My Happy Marriage, but from all the rest, there's no problem.
It doesn't compare to Vinland Saga season 2. I love it. It's really good. Doesn't compare.
Okay, I'm glad we agree on that one.
Best slice of life. Now these are consistent.
Yeah, these are all slice of lives, and they do slice different types of life, and that's what I like to see from slice of lives.
My pick for this one is going to be Skip and Loafer. I wasn't counting it for romance because I don't find it as romance, but as a slice of life, this is the best one.
Like I said, I need to see it. So of the ones that I've seen, I'm giving it to Bocchi. because that's a I think that's a great slice of I think what it does best is be a slice of
Hmm.
like I might not be the biggest Bochi like character fan, but what it does best is be a slice of life. I feel the everyday emotions from each character. Some more than others, but yes, I do
Yeah.
feel the what they're going for.
Yeah.
I think it's the best slice of life.
I like Bocchi as a series better, but I feel like if we're looking at that slice of life angle, Skip and Loafer just does a phenomenal job. Like,
All right, then
I highly
I will
recommend
have
the
to check that.
series.
Yeah, I will have to check
Yeah.
that out.
And I love Insomniacs After School, but that it wins in the romance category. But best main
Best
character,
main character.
I know you're not going to vote for this one.
So yeah, I'm not gonna vote for Bochi. Like I said, my personal opinion, I think she is the, and this is not to say I think she's a bad character. I want to really emphasize
you're
that.
just wrong.
I think I think she's a good character, but I think she's not the best part. I think she's the worst part of the series. Yeah, I'm entitled to my opinion. Okay, I'm allowed to believe what I believe.
Your
even
opinion
if
is fucking dumb.
It's not dumb. It's credited. Okay.
Credited from what? Like, what are we
My
credited to talk about anything?
My lack of interest. That the times I check my phone when I'm watching Bochi the Rock are the times when she's on screen.
Wow.
Nah, but she's good. She's good. She's just not my vibe for the show. I think I've seen this so many kind of her type of character so many times, and that's why it's like I couldn't I can't say she's the best of those, and I think that's what's really dividing me from her is just some of the mannerisms and stuff she does. I can't get with, but I can see why other people would get with.
Yeah. This one is tough because we literally have Mob, Luffy, and Thorfinn.
I gave it to Shigeo. I think the best protagonist, especially considering what season 3 is about.
Yeah.
I gave it to Mob.
I could have given it to any three of those because, like,
I agree.
Mob's wonderful conclusion, Luffy being Luffy again, the peak, and then Thorfinn, some of the best character development, just period. So it's like I could give it.
Like I said, this season put Thorfinn into like my easily one of my top 10. Like it's so good.
So it's like
top 20 easy.
Any of those three wins it, I will be happy and I will understand.
I'm gonna give it to Mob. I'm gonna give it to Shigeo because
I do not blame you.
And personally, I like One Piece more than I like Mob, but I still think just from this season, like because One Piece Luffy is kind of like this is like the emotional climax of Luffy to this point, but to really say him as a protagonist is built up over the whole of One Piece, whereas this is like the 12 episodes are just on Mob recognizing him as a person. And we talked about this, so that's why I give it to Shigeo.
Yeah, it's like Mob or Thorfinn, either them win, I'll understand.
Both fine. Yeah.
Best supporting character, it's Reagan. It's Reagan.
It's Reagan.
No one compares.
I don't want to. They put him at the top of the list for a reason because you don't have to read the rest of the nominees. I'm sure I actually didn't read the rest of the nominees. When I saw the category, I didn't even read the nominees. I just put Reagan, assuming he'd be on there.
He wins. That's it. That's everyone else is okay. But it's Reagan.
Yeah, the only person I could see that puts that blinks in his direction is Gojo.
Yeah.
Compare when I just actually looked at the list for the first time. But no, it's Reagan. There's no doubt.
This man killed the Queen of England.
Oh, what a guy!
This man fought Sans from Undertale and killed the Queen of England.
Yeah, you don't do that too often. Like what is Gojo doing? He's stuck in a box.
Well, he was stuck in a box. Well, spoilers. I pulled a Jujutsu Kaisen manga reader. I pulled a manga reader.
No,
I'm becoming one of them.
It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them. Must protect at all costs character. So if this wasn't season 2, this would be Boji.
Yeah.
But
I'm tempted to give it to Soletta from Witch and Mercury, maybe just because I just finished binging that today. So
I actually give it to Anya. Because if there's one thing that is consistent about Spy Family, it's Anya.
Anya's always fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
I get it.
so I'm gonna give it to Anya just because once again it's kind of like the indoctrination. I see Anya everywhere I go, so I have to give it to her. She's great. Best part of, and I think it's most people would agree she's the best part of
Yeah, she's
Spy
always
Family.
consistently good, no matter how boring the series gets sometimes. Now, best song. This is not best opening, but this is best song.
No, best song. So the song I listen to the most, and I can I can discredit myself all the time with all my talking about Bochi isn't the best protagonist. Station Complex is such a
I listened to the Kisoku Band album. This was not my favorite.
good. Oh, okay. So of yours, which is your favorite song from this best anime song?
Hmm. I'm Idol is a fantastic song. I'm a scared. It feels like it's been overplayed at this point.
Um, Yasobi, like I'm a big anime OP, big anime song kind of guy. And when I think of Yasobi, I think of the Beastars songs and
Mm.
openings more than I mean. That's once again, I think I'm just sick and tired of seeing Oshinoko everywhere. But when I think of just like a pure song, Station Complex is so good.
It is fantastic.
So that's I'll give it to that.
Honestly, I'd probably give it to that
Kickback,
also. It is not my favorite
yeah,
song from the series, but it is out of this list,
yeah,
it is fantastic.
yeah, not my favorite song from the series, but from this list, oh my, I love it. And
Yeah,
Kickback is still really good as a song.
it is. Yeah.
It can get stuck in your ear pretty quickly, but
Best score. The fact that Vinland Saga Season 2 is not on here makes me upset. Like, I don't
yeah,
really remember the music for most of these. I remember the stuff from Vinland Season 2.
that so I put in my own category. I wrote Vinland season two.
Yeah.
I think it's. But if I had to choose from these, I'm actually gonna give it to Demon Slayer. It's the one I remember the most of the specific
Honestly, yeah,
nominees.
probably.
Because I when I saw Bochi the Rock on here, and this I need to once again I keep trashing it. I actually do really like Bochi the Rock, but I don't remember the score.
Yeah, it's like,
I'm sorry, I don't.
if we're talking about the songs that came out from this, I'd probably pick Bochi because there's
Yeah,
some bangers.
absolutely.
Again, I listened to the album, bangers, fucking bangers. But if we're talking about the score, yeah, it exists. Again,
I don't remember it, but
I
yeah. So
endlessly
absolutely,
upset. And
should be Vinland Saga.
I swear to God, if next year the score for Free Rent isn't on here, I am going to burn something down.
Yeah, I gotta get more into that. Like I said, about 5 episodes in. So,
But yeah, the
no
true winner
spoilers.
of this is Vinland Season 2. But
Absolutely, I'll give it to Demon Slayer just because
yeah,
it's the most memorable of the nominees.
yeah. Now, best opening.
I'm so mad it's not on here. Like this is the one I'm most upset with for not having this nominated. It's one.
One, yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's
In my opinion, it's up there, up maybe top one, top two anime openings of all time.
It should have been on here. I am.
So yeah, Mob Psycho opening three, one, flawless.
Yeah. Out of the ones
I
on
re-
here, I would probably pick the Jujutsu Kaisen one because if you know what's going on, that opening hits like a truck.
Now, as a caveat, I don't know which Zom 100 one they choose.
Isn't it just one opening the entire time?
The,
But they
the last
update the visuals.
so they update the visuals, but the last episode has Dome
Hmm.
that they change, and it is so good. It is up there top five. So if I'm not including one, I will say it's Zom 100's episode like last opening. But if it's overall, then it's a toss up for me between Jujutsu Kaisen and um, the Zom 100 one. But since I'm going to count that last episode one, I'm going to give it to Zom 100 because that it's with the dancing, rolling. It's so good.
Fair
It
enough.
captures the show so well.
Ending.
Yeah, this one once again. This one's no contest for me. So I'll let you talk about which ones you want to talk about before I get to mine. But this one has no contest.
I don't really remember any of these except for the one from ending 3 of Chainsaw Man.
Oh, you don't remember Spy Family Color?
That's that one. Okay, it's gonna be that one. Never mind.
Okay.
I forgot
Yeah, that
which
was
ending. I forgot which
so
ending that one's
yeah.
was. But
That
you snapped me out of it. Thank you.
that one is really good, but for me, it's still no contest. I actually chose Zom 100, Happiness of the Dead.
Hmm.
The art style choice they made, the visuals, the song, the animation, it's so nice. It reminds me of like those classic like Fairy Tale or Soul Eater or like the really older endings that like they just connected. It brought that like inner child in you again out. You're like, yeah, this is why I'm watching this. But um, as a second place, definitely Spy Family.
Yeah. Although, can we just speak for what an accomplishment it is that Chainsaw Man did 12 endings that you could honestly fill this list with?
Yeah. In particular, I remember what the second one and ninth one.
I'd have to go back and watch all of them, but they were just
Yeah, they're so good, and they're well animated,
they're
well choreographed.
well
Cinematography was fantastic.
choreographed. All the songs are cool. They're all so distinct and different from each other.
What an impressive accomplishment!
Like, they didn't need to do that. There was no actual reason to do that. They just did it, and I'm happy that they did.
Uh, Best voice artist performance, Japanese.
I'm gonna have to go with Mayumi Tanaka for Luffy for this one, just for Gear 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree. Now I'll be honest. Yuki Kaiji is always good
He is.
as
He
Aaron.
always gives 100% as Aaron, no doubt about it.
Like we can talk about the character Aaron all we want, but my God, Yuji Kaiji always puts in a fantastic performance.
He's giving his all. He doesn't stop moving. Keeps moving forward.
But for this year, I do have to give it once to Tanaka. She's so good.
The laughs during Gear 5 have not left my brain. Like,
Just her voice during the whole like this whole year, she had so much to do and she did it. Like I would hate to have that pressure, knowing what you have to do, and to make it so iconic, so memorable, and so good. Man, she deserves all the credit for
yeah.
that. Much props.
Now, this is going to be the final one for us, which is Best Voiceover Performance English. I actually started getting back into watching dubs recently.
You know, I have two, not out of like necessity, just because I wanted to.
Yeah, just a couple series I started watching in dub. I hear they're good. They're easier for me to watch. Like, I watched all of Witch from Mercury in dub. I'm watching through Freeman in dub. I watched the new anime Delicious in Dungeon through dub. Turns out dubs are really good when you don't have a bunch of people screaming in your ear that they're bad.
Yeah, like I am so sick of people saying that like, oh, you watch anime dubbed. Doesn't like you're allowed to. It's still good. It's still anime, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't listen to it because it's cringy dubbed. It's the same in Japanese. You're just what do you mean? They're saying the same stuff.
The theory.
Like, oh no, no, no.
The theory.
I get what.
The theory I hear is how it's easier for fans to watch it in sub because they don't have to realize how weird the dialogue is.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like if you don't speak Japanese, you don't know how cringy the conversations are. In like when you're listening to it, but like for me, I understand a higher level of Japanese than most people, and so you know, I get that same feeling in Japanese or English. So no matter what happens, I feel that cringe. That's why we were talking about earlier. Maybe we should watch anime in Portuguese just to see what it would be like. But
I'm watching anime. I know this stuff is going to be weird either way.
I know what I'm signing up for.
Yeah. For
but,
this one,
there are some where it's like I prefer dubs over subs and vice versa.
There's only cases where some are better, some are worse, but you know, dubs overall are pretty consistent. And for this one, I am going to have to pick Ryan Colt Levy from Chainsaw Man. I've been watching through Chainsaw Man dubbed. I think I prefer the dub over the sub, if I'm being honest.
I completely agree. Yes. I think the Chainsaw Man dub is a little bit, maybe more than a little bit better.
For me, I think because like the dubcast really add almost like a B movie vibe to everything, which
It feels Tarantino esque,
kinda, yeah.
not B movie. It kind of feels like Tarantino to me.
Hmm.
And if you could capture the master of dialogue, then yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but glad we
But
both agree on this one. And the rest of these are a bunch of languages we do not watch stuff in. Who knows? Next anime I watch, I might just watch it in German just to see how the experience is.
yeah, I've been always interested in learning Arabic, so maybe I should watch. Let's see, who
Did they just dub Dragon Ball Super
they,
in Arabic?
I I want to see what um I'm not. I don't want to even. I know Muhammad Dahul. I don't want to say his name wrong, but I want to see how he does Reagan. I'm interested now to see how Reagan in Arabic sounds.
Yeah.
Let me get a copy of that.
But
Yeah, so that's our nominations. So you can tune into the Crunchyroll Anime Awards. They'll be, I think, March 2nd, where you'll be able to see the actual results and see if our voices were heard from the judges or not.
because we are objectively correct about everything we just said.
Although I've been told on multiple occasions that I'm objectively wrong on my Bochi
Oh, I wonder who told you that.
pick. I have short-term memory. I can't remember.
And I am always correct, no matter what.
Don't believe me? Well, then you're wrong.
To say something in the comments, fight about it.
Yeah, we're always open for more conversation and love to be able to contribute back to the community and fight with you guys, tussle on your picks for, oh, Darian said that Zone 100 has best cinematography, but he's stupid. Like, go ahead, say that. I'm ready.
Come. I'll fight anybody.
I'm here. I'm here all day. I didn't hear no bell.
We have been talking for
So
another 3 hours.
And so that will conclude this wonderful podcast. Thank you for tuning in with us. Please leave comments and like below and subscribe for more. And next week
Next time we get around to it.
Next time we feel like it, match our schedules up, we will be talking about a new series as well as a new topic, which this time we're going to leave both as a mystery. Or unless NoTea, would you like to pick?
I've got nothing. You're going to have to give me some time.
All right, we'll just cut this whole last half off from the.
No, I'm leaving it in.
Oh, okay. Well, great. Good. Leave it in. My mistakes are only best made when I get to be made fun of for them. Then it really builds the gusto.
If you truly do something that embarrassing, I will cut it out.
I always do embarrassing things. And that's what I live my life by.
But I think that's going to do it this time around.
Yeah. Tune in next time. See you guys.
See ya.